And live for episode 5 of doing this as an episodic show. I actually have been going live daily since before I started putting the counter. I started putting the counter when I started doing 10 to 12 CST. That time is likely to change in about a week. I got a work thing coming up. Bad day to be a Democrat. I would say that for a while now it's been a bad day to be a American. But Chico, I think you were waiting in the queue yesterday to talk, so maybe we can hit the ground running with a conversation with you today. Thank you, Disc Golf 30, for sharing the live. And good morning, Mama Avery. Always exciting to see Ahmad in the chat like 2 seconds after I go live, because it means I can get right to worrying about having a good show instead of worrying about getting the show taken down for bad activity in the chat. So big shout out to Mama Avery. If you're already watching, give some W's in the chat for Mama Avery, because she's putting in the work. Absolutely. What are their announcements-wise? I was poking at the news. Doesn't look like anything unusual today. Just a normal amount of flip-flopping about the Iran war and stuff like that. Let me make sure I'm not rendering. Yep. Okay, I have a video render paused in the background. That's going to be bad for the frame rate of the live if I let that keep going. el.chico.tech.edu says SPLC. What is... Did I just say something really bad out loud? Is that an acronym or initialism for something that I shouldn't have said? I don't know. I definitely have a little bit of that kind of Anchorman like teleprompter glitch where I'll start reading a comment, get halfway through it and go, uh-oh. Hey, el.chico.tech.edu, I know you're a regular watcher and regular caller. Please don't spam the chat. I don't want to have to mute you today, and I certainly don't want to have to ban you. Sothern Poverty Law Center is the new Republican talking point. Is that the news today? Is there something? I'll Google about it. Yeah, he has it backwards, right? So, SPLC. If it was SPLC, I would have recognized he was talking about the Southern Poverty... Can't talk, not warmed up yet. Southern Poverty Law Center. Shall we do our tongue twisters? Peter Pepper picked a pack of pickled peppers. A pack of pickled peppers. Peter Pepper picked a pack of pickled peppers. Where's the pack of pickled... nope, see, I can't do it. I'm not warmed up. SPLC. What is the news? What is the news about indicted for alleged extremist funding? Oh, yeah, that's terrifying. I don't like that. They did say that they're going to go after all us liberals for our like terrorist funding or whatever. Yeah, okay. I'm going to leave this open as a tab. I'll do more research on it off stream just because it's not the best way to spend the live. But yeah, I'm not surprised that the government is going after the sorts of people who fight against the sorts of civil rights abuses. Do I live in my mom's basement? No. If you want to ask me with your voice, you can hit the request button and talk to me yourself. But you're getting muted for the entire live to encourage you to do that because I don't have a caller right now, and I would like for somebody to call in and talk to me about some stuff. It is always fun when like people, I have a successful enough live streaming thing going on right now that when people come in here and like talk trash about me being on TikTok live, it's like, you're here as an audience member. Like, what does that mean about you? Sorry, all my audience members. Obviously, I love you guys. But again, if you're just going to say that somebody's unemployed or whatever for being on here, I mean, I have people. I really wonder about some of my callers, you know, where it's like they call me, they call my friends. I go listen to Dean Withers. They talk to Dean Withers for an hour. I'm thinking about you, Popcorn. Heard you on Dean Withers yesterday. It's just like you should call in, make the same bad 5 or 6 arguments about Trump over and over and over again, and you know, every 8 times you call in, the host accidentally misspeaks or misremembers a fact, and then you call that a W. That join button isn't around. It's possible you got that restriction removed by one of my... Here, I should be able to just... let me go to my invite thing. El Chico Tech, are you in the queue? Yeah, I'll invite you up, El Chico. There, invitation sent. So you should be able to get in. I've been remembering to invite people more because that certainly helps. And do I have a gift goal? I'll get a gift goal cooking because I should remember to do that more. Certainly more than I do. But yeah, the government going after the funding of organizations, non-government organizations that work to protect people's rights, in this case, the Southern Poverty Law Center, is very concerning and unfortunately very unsurprising. That's not... Tell us who the Democratic Party leader is. We don't fucking have one. We don't do it like that because we believe in democracy. I don't care about Joe Biden. I don't care about Kamala Harris. I don't. I think Kelly is probably my personal pick for who should run next. But what's up, el.chico.tech.edu?
Hey, what's up, brother? How you doing? Hey, congratulations on the dig.
Which dig?
Didn't you say you got a new job thing going on or something?
Oh, I was just referring to a schedule change. Both of my jobs are inconsistent. The 10 to 12 block might not work for like 2 weeks, so I might just change times, just depending on. Still,
I thought you got like a new job or something.
No, same job, just different schedule. It's an inconsistent schedule always. Such is being a starving artist. Things are always chaotic. So consistency is important for TikTok. So I'm trying with that, but I don't make enough money doing this to just dedicate completely. Unfortunately, Linktree in the bio if you want to.
Nah, I got you.
What do you want to talk about?
Hey, bro. So Southern Poverty Law Center just got caught funding right extremist organizations like the KKK to make up hate issues. You know, like those, like the alt-right people who were marching down the street and stuff like that. That was paid by the Poverty Law Center.
Okay. So you're accusing the Southern Poverty Law Center of funding the Ku Klux Klan.
No, the FBI did with the indictment by grand jury. Okay. Look it up.
Yeah, I'm actually looking at an article by the New York Times that was posted yesterday about this. So again, what your claim is that the Southern Poverty Law Center has been funding the KKK. Is that what you said?
No, the FBI.
Okay, again, you're saying that the FBI is claiming that the Southern Poverty Law Center has been funding the Ku Klux Klan.
Correct.
What is their evidence?
The indictment, if you read it, it's a 30-page indictment, I believe.
Okay, yeah, this is current events, so I'm not going to sit here and pretend I know everything about this and I'm going to dunk you on it. I am just going to press you because I'm sitting here like, wow, this is an interesting news story. Very suspicious of the FBI to do that. I wonder why. I wonder if they have good evidence. And you're saying, ha, gotcha. The FBI has an indictment. They got them. They caught them. I'm saying, like, why are you so convinced that this was a legitimate action by the FBI when the FBI has been kind of biffing it on doing things legitimate lately? Like you're the expert. You came up with this topic. You can tell me what to look at. You want to look at this indictment? You still there? Oh, you're muted. I'm going to invite you to unmute. I didn't mute you, for the record. I always announce you when I mute the guest.
No, it's weird when you change apps. It mutes me.
Yeah. You automatically get put on mute if you swipe out of the app. That I know.
Yeah. So what was I going to say? Oh, so the original investigation started during the Biden administration, and the Biden administration actually squashed it, put it under the rug. And then now with the Trump administration, they picked up the case, and now we got an indictment.
Wait. So you're moving, dude. That background noise has to go. Like, it's actually bothering me, and if it's bothering me, it's got to be like that. That was nails on a chalkboard, literally. I need you to cool the background noise if you're going to be on. I'm sorry, but I got to take my show more seriously.
No, you're good. I got you.
Yeah,
I got you.
Yeah, so watch the background noise. But again, so I asked you like what exactly the evidence is and why you're so convinced that this is legitimate, and then you went on to make further claims about how the Biden administration suppressed this. Which again, I'd be very interested in all of that. But these are extraordinary claims, and extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. So I want more information on this, and you just don't seem to have any. You're just declaring it a W. Like, what is this all about? Educate my audience.
Well, that's what I'm telling you. Like, if your audience goes into the FBI and look up the indictment to the organization, then they'll see, hey, you know what? Yeah, evidence shows based on the grand jury indictment that they were funding right-wing organizations to stage these right-wing protests. And if you think about it, all this time, you and I were lied on saying, you know, Republicans are racist, they're extremists, look at these, they're supporting these individuals, and it's not true. And it's like, wow, that is interesting. You mentioned earlier, it's like, it's a sad day to be American. It's like, yeah, you're right. A Democrat party influenced this organization and pushed all these lies.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I'm going to have to read this indictment. This is a big document. This is current events, so I'm obviously going to have to. Have you read this entire document word for word? I'm just asking you personally.
Yeah, I read it.
You read it?
Synopsis. Synopsis pretty much.
Oh, you wait. So the answer to the question, have you read this long document, is not yes. It's no. You read a synopsis of it.
No, I read it. I'm just giving you a synopsis.
Okay.
I'm not going to recite the whole article to you.
I mean, again, yeah, there's a lot of stuff in here about wire communications and informants that they had in the Ku Klux Klan. So, like, I'm going to need to figure out what this is all about. What exactly is it that the FBI is alleging that the Southern Poverty Law Center did that was illegal?
So they're using donor funds to promote right-wing extremists like the KKK to do protests and stage hate crimes.
Okay, so the Southern Poverty Law Center has informants that they install in the Ku Klux Klan to like get information on them and catch them doing illegal things. Are you suggesting?
Well, what do you mean?
I am skimming this indictment like live on the spot right now because this is current events. So I am just trying to understand you and what I'm looking at. And what I'm seeing is that, like just to quote a section from the indictment here, it says, starting in the 1980s, the SPLC began operating a covert network of informants who were either associated with violent extremist groups such as the Ku Klux Klan or had infiltrated violent extremist groups such as the SPLC's. At the SPLC's direction. These informants were referred to some individuals within the SPLC as the field sources or the Fs. So again, sounds to me like they had informants to like help them catch the bad guys. And the FBI is saying that somewhere in that process I could see that if you had, like, for example, let's say I was trying to catch DRUG sellers and I like hired an informant to go spy on them, but the informant did a bunch of DRUG selling and a bunch of bad gangster shit in the course of doing that. You can do enough stuff as an informant that is illegal where it's like, hey, this isn't cool. You can't go be a violent extremist to catch the violent extremists. I recognize that sort of argument. Is that what the FBI is saying happened here? That the SPLC funded these bad activities like through their informant program and they overstepped their bounds in terms of what they did as informants? Is that the accusation?
Pretty much.
Okay.
Pretty much. But
if
with
they did
you
that,
saying
that's
it's
bad.
like,
So I mean, what does that have to do with, I mean, like democracy as a whole, or my position as a person on the left versus the right?
That the left used a nonprofit organization to manipulate individuals to believe that Republicans are right.
You're adding a step here. You're adding a step here. You said because there's the organization, there's the informants, and then there's the Ku Klux Klan, right? And those are three things. And you added another one. You said that the left is using the SPLC to get to the informants, to get to the Ku Klux Klan. So you're just declaring that all of us on the left are okay with this behavior. Let's just assume you're right. Let's assume they did a bad thing. You're just assuming that the left.
You didn't even know about it.
When you say, this is a news story that came out like yesterday, and I don't have it yet. But what I'm saying is, when you say the left used them to do this, what the fuck does that mean? Yes. Did Joe Biden personally order it? Like, what type of nonsense are you referring to when you say that?
Well, we don't know because during the Biden administration, they stopped the investigation against the organization, a nonprofit organization. Okay. And why do they need informants to begin with?
That's a very specific accusation. You're saying that the Biden administration ordered this to continue or stopped it being investigated?
Yeah, stopped it from being investigated.
All right. Are you simply saying that because there are some dates in this form that happened during the Biden administration?
No, it's in the indictment saying like during the Biden administration they were investigated, but then they stopped it, and then when the Trump administration came in, they started looking into it.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I can say I can remain agnostic to that until I see it because it's possible. But if the Biden administration specifically said, hey, this SPLC investigation, you guys need to slow it down, that would be bad, and I would criticize the Biden administration for that, and it'd be a scandalous story, and I'd want to talk about it. The reason I'm hesitant to do that right away is because people say things like Biden, opened the border and let all those illegal immigrants in, and I literally generate a dozen clips a week of me asking somebody, what did Biden do to open the border? What policy position? What exactly was he supposed to do to keep it closed? And people don't have answers. So if there was crime being committed during the Biden administration,
I could answer that for you.
Well, I don't want to get sidetracked over to that. What I want to say is that I'm very used to people on the right saying that a crime happened during Biden's term, therefore he's responsible for it or allowed it or something like that. So again, that's a very specific claim about the Biden administration doing something, and I just need to see very specific evidence for that. It does to me, and the audience can maybe chime in on this because we do have almost 100 people watching. I do probably need to research this better. I'm not educated on this. I'm hearing about it from you.
And you'll be shocked. I was shocked too. It's like, wow, we were right the whole time.
Well, and we on the left are capable of saying that if the SPLC did something bad, then that's bad. Like maybe this is a rightful indictment. I genuinely don't know.
Well, I mean, and then you have another Democrat nonprofit organization, Axe Blue, who's just also recently caught accepting foreign funds and laundering money with gift cards.
Okay.
Accepting donor money.
So again, we can just for the sake of argument assume you're right on that. I don't really feel the need to research it because again, this gets to the problem of disproportionality about how MAGA has been fooled about all this stuff because.
But how are we being fooled if it's...
The president is personally suing the IRS for $10 billion of our taxpayer dollars. How is that not a bigger scandal? How is that not a bigger scandal? Why?
Because they released his tax forms as a private citizen. Doesn't he not have civil rights?
Okay. I'm not actually educated on whether or not that's right to do, but I think that saying that constitutes $10 billion in damage is absurd.
Well, then the government shouldn't infringe on his constitutional rights, right?
Well, the government's infringing on lots of people's constitutional rights, including mine. Where's my $10 billion?
Well, hey, there's a courthouse.
Okay, like I don't feel like you're arguing in good faith. Like you're joshing, like, oh, go collect that check, buddy. Yeah, but obviously we can't. Obviously, we who have been attacked physically by ICE agents for exercising our First Amendment right, which is my big example of my own personal civil rights violation that I've had happen a lot over the last few months.
So why were you attacked?
Okay, so you're gonna just keep doing the like one additional step of like, oh, I could tell you that I was standing on the street corner legally yelling, and they threatened to mace me. And
you just say you were attacked, but I mean, you gotta put some more bluff into it. Like, okay, I was attacked because I was just standing there, or I was
sidestepping the point, which is that there are like widespread civil rights abuses that are happening. I don't need to talk about myself. I generally don't like talking about myself. No chat, no all caps in the chat. People watch it. What I'm saying though, is that you're concerned about all these little things when the president himself is lining his own pockets, his family members' pockets, and the pockets of his friends who he's cronies with in the government, and you're okay with that. Like literally, the president of the United States is suing the IRS for $10 billion in personal damages. That's insane. He moved $10 billion worth of taxpayer money into an offshore account for the Board of Peace Fund, which is something that he made up that isn't regulated by the government. That's just him giving himself $10 billion to play with under the guise of this silly World Peace Fund because he doesn't like the UN. He captured all of Venezuela's oil, declared it belongs to the US, and instead of using it to protect us from the insane gas prices that he created with the war in Iran, he's selling that oil on the global market and then again moving that money into offshore accounts to do who knows what with because it's not regulated by the government. He's like literally robbing the government blind, and you're like upset about gift cards from, again, I don't even know the example you gave, but even if you're right, it's just not as big a story as the fact that the president is a fraudster who's defrauding the American people and the taxpayer. Like why don't you care about any of that? Why have you been fooled into thinking all this other stuff is more important?
So where's your proof on that?
I just listed so many things, but again, and I could sit here.
But that's not proof just because you listed it.
You gotta let me finish a sentence when you ask me for proof, dude. Like what I'm saying is that he's doing these things in broad daylight. Like you can Google Trump moves $10 billion into his Board of Peace Fund. And then you can Google about the Board of Peace Fund and find that what I said about it is true, that it's not really established by any branch of the government. It's not like a real thing. It's just something that Trump made up. And that and that being the case, because it's not regulated in any way, he effectively gave the money to himself. That's a specific example. Do you want me to find articles about that? Because I listed like 5 things.
Well, let's talk about regulation then in regards to the same topic is like, okay, does regulation really help the taxpayer dollars go to its full effort, or does it actually liquidate it?
I think we should. Well, I don't really know why you're bringing up regulations, but what I would say is that I think we should have some regulations.
Well, you just mentioned it, into Trump's.
I'm saying there should be regulations that stop him from moving that kind of money into an account that isn't regulated. Like the president.
But why? That's it.
No president has ever done something so flagrantly fraudulent to the American people. We don't even have rules on the books to prevent this sort of thing. We just don't elect people that... Proton, you're getting banned. I don't like that type of crap in my chat.
Oh my God, that's crazy. That's pretty cool though.
It used to happen a lot when I was a new streamer. I've banned most of those guys. They do like big swastikas and stuff. All right, yeah, Lacey, you too. Like again, blocked right away. I'm not dealing with it anymore. But yeah, like you can Google that. I don't like sitting and doing the research thing when like literally just Google Trump put $10 billion into his Board of Peace Fund. He's asking other countries for $1 billion to join. It's a bunch of terrible people who are joining that fund, or that group, that club, because it's a bunch of people who also don't like the UN. Even the UN generally does good things for the world. So,
like what? Like what?
Okay, you're not actually answering anything I'm saying. Like you're just saying like what about that? What about this small detail about what you just said? When again,
the thing is like, okay, what I'm trying to get at is like you're saying, okay, the UN has done amazing things. Okay, like what? Give me an example. I mean, yeah, the UN does do good things, but with the amount of money...
Your opinion about the UN is really like a small detail in what I just brought up, which is that that Trump is stealing billions of dollars from the U.S. government. I'm not interested in discussing whether or not you like the UN. It's not the important...
Well, I don't like the UN because I worked with the UN before, and it's so many hurdles and so many steps you have to go in order to have a project funded. It's like, oh my God.
Yes or no? No. I'm going to take us right back because I really am just going to say for the third time that I'm not interested in discussing our personal opinions about the UN. UN. I really don't think it's important to the live. What's important to the live is the fact that Donald Trump moved $10 billion into an account that he controls. Is that something that you think the U.S. president should be able to do? And would you be okay with it if Biden had done that?
Yeah, why not? If it can move things further, faster, and actually get some outcomes with taxpayer dollars,
what are the
why
outcomes
not?
that we're getting from the Board of Peace Fund? What are they doing?
I don't know. They just started. What do you want them to do?
Right. There's the step you're taking. You're just assuming because you like Trump.
They just started.
I think that
an organization just started. Like, a startup doesn't just.
I think you would scrutinize the hell out of something started by Biden if it immediately cost the taxpayers $10 billion. But you're sitting here saying you don't even know what it does and you assume it's fine and you assume it must be better than the UN, which you don't like for some reason. Like this is mental gymnastics, dude. You were leaping across every gap you need to make Trump look good, and you were tripping over the smallest pebble that could derail this conversation into some discussion about the activities of the UN or whatever.
No, not really. Actually, the reason why I support what Trump is doing is because he's actually going to remove the UN and then actually go with a program that actually works.
Okay, in what way will it actually work? What will it do?
For starters, let's see. What are the missions of what would you call it?
You just said a second ago that you don't know.
No, I don't, because the program just started. And
You're
it's not
sitting here defending an organization that you don't even know what it does. Like, what the hell is wrong with you? I know what the UN does. I'll defend the UN. I don't really want to spend time on the UN, but I do happen to know what the type of shit they get up to. You don't even know what this Board of Peace Fund is about, and you're saying it's probably okay. I am accusing you of probably not reacting that way if it was something that Biden had done. I think if the headline was that Biden was moving $10 billion of taxpayer money into an account that he controls for his own purposes for a club that he made up that some bad guys the world over are paying $1 billion to join, you would say, for fucking what now? What's happening? Where's this money going to be used on? What is it going to be spent on? I think that's what you would be doing. I'm accusing you of that sort of hypocrisy directly because it's nonsense to me that you're okay with the president.
I'm also going to question the same thing in regards to the organization. But like I said, the Board of Peace is just a brand new started organization. And we really don't know what the outcomes are going to be. Just like everything else in life, like every other policy, the policy is in black and white. But the thing is, once it gets implemented, we won't know the outcomes until we see, okay, what are the trajectories looking like in regards to this program? Within the UN, okay, we've had the UN for years, yet alone. We still have war. We still have famine. We still have issues.
The UN isn't promising bullshit the way Trump is. They're not saying on day one we're going to stop all wars the world over. The UN do peacekeeping efforts. They feed hungry people in countries where there are conflict. They bring medicine to children who are sick. Like they do some good when there's lots of bad happening in the world. And they go, okay, we can't solve the civil war in this country, but we can definitely airdrop some rice and vaccine into a village so that these people don't suffer as much. Like that's the type of shit that the UN does, and that's just good. Like that's not even a means to an end. It just is good to feed hungry children because then children aren't as hungry, which I know Republicans aren't really about that type of shit because you support a president who starved children by disobeying a judge's order.
So how long are we going to... So for how long are we going to feed these hungry children? That's what I'm trying to get at. Like with taxpayer funds.
Well, but here's this really fun thing is that the UN is an international organization that isn't solely run by the U.S. government, so you don't actually have to worry too much about it. Are you suggesting that Trump is going to use the $10 billion that he stole from the taxpayers for his club to do that sort of good? Is that what you think is going to happen?
I'm sorry, you froze for a few seconds.
What I'm saying is that I listed some of the types of good outcomes that the UN seeks, and they biff it. Sometimes they screw. They didn't do very well in Rwanda during the genocide. Like they have some marks on their track record.
No,
you're right. I'm asking you if you think that the $10 billion that Trump stole from the American taxpayers for his private club that he came with, do you think that money is going to be spent on that sort of good?
Yeah. I do.
Why do you think that? You don't even know what the mission statement of the organization is. You have you Googled since we started the call?
Yeah, Board of Peace is an international organization created by President Trump, formally established in 2026. UN Security Council Resolution 2803. It's a long document. It's very boring. Yeah. Overseeing implementation
so the UN already existed and was already doing that. Why does Trump make his own? It's silly.
So, looking at this, it looks like the first mission for the organization is to implement a Gaza police and reconstruction plan.
You're reading the mission statements of the Board of Peace?
That's one of their core.
Right. So
one
these
of their
are all
missions
things. These
to
are all
solve,
things that when the UN does them, or when Interpol does them, or when the EU does them, they get criticism because of this America First policy. But you're going to throw away the America First policy to defend him doing this sort of thing, even though he's obviously not actually doing it for these charitable reasons, because it's not.
But what are you talking about? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I'm just saying that, like, it's complete mental gymnastics for you to talk shit about the UN and then say that Trump's Board of Peace is going to do something better.
It's not mental gymnastics. It's just common sense. It's like, hey, we had the UN for so many years. All right, we as taxpayers put so much money into this organization, yet we still have the same issue in the same in the same countries. Nothing has been fixed. Dude, we keep on putting more and more and more.
When a kid who's hungry and starving eats food, I call that something being fixed. Do you call that something being fixed? Do you think that that's just on its own a net good for the planet when a hungry kid gets to eat dinner?
Yeah, I mean, okay.
Then stop saying that the UN hasn't fucking done anything, because they've done loads, dude.
So
there's still strife in the world.
Okay, so he ate one. So he ate one dinner. So what?
So you don't care about the child eating dinner?
No, I don't. He ate one meal, and so what? What? How's that?
When he went to school the next day after eating that dinner, he learned better, and maybe he got a better job and had a better life when he was older because.
Okay, did he? Is he going to eat the next day?
We hope so. I mean, it's more likely.
We hope so.
yeah. Maybe that child and his family have more energy to go out and work the fields because they got a pick me up. Again, like, we can sit here and argue about welfare. It's
they need us. They need us to feed them so they can work the fields? Is that what you're saying?
If you think it's bad for the United States to be doing that sort of thing, why are you defending the Board of Peace by saying it's going to do that sort of thing? You're being a fucking hypocrite. Dude, this is mental gymnastics. Your argument is a fucking pretzel right now.
Don't we have, like, hungry kids, American citizen kids?
Yeah, Trump refused to feed them by disobeying a judge's order when he was ordered to fund SNAP benefits for hungry families, and he refused to do that to own the libs. Yeah, because Trump is a fucking Bond villain war criminal.
You know why he did that?
Why did Trump starve the kids? Explain it to me.
Because illegal immigrants were receiving benefits that they're not supposed to be receiving.
How many children would you refuse to feed to stop one illegal immigrant from eating a dinner that they weren't entitled to? What's the number? What's the ratio? Like, if you had to stop 100 kids from getting that dinner, but when you did that, actually one of them didn't deserve it. So it's 99 kids who deserve to get dinner don't get it, but one illegal immigrant doesn't get their dinner. Are you okay with that sort of ratio?
Okay, what you're not understanding is he stopped funding for people to abuse the system.
What percentage of the children that Donald Trump starved by disobeying that judge's order were illegal immigrants who didn't deserve to get the food?
I don't know the numbers, but
if you don't know the numbers, then why are you sitting here arguing to me that that's why he did it? Because the number is very, very small. Because illegal immigrants are ineligible for this sort of welfare. You need to be a citizen. So
fraud isn't not a thing. It's not possible to conduct fraud.
In the SNAP program, it's very difficult because you have to be a citizen to get the benefits.
No, it's not. It's easy.
You need to show proof of that. No, you're saying that we should starve millions of children in order to prevent this fraud, and you can't even tell me how much fraud there is.
We don't. How are you going to tell something?
You can't even tell me that it's a widespread problem, because in order to sign
it is a widespread problem.
Proof, dude. You need proof. We're feeding hungry kids, and you're saying that we're doing something bad. I'm saying, look at all these hungry kids who are not so hungry anymore. Yay, we did it. And you're saying, nope. Some illegal immigrants got to eat. By the way, just as an aside, I'm actually okay with us feeding hungry illegal immigrants too, because hungry people is just.
I'm not.
Yeah, I know you're a piece of shit. You've made that clear in the call. I'm just saying that as an aside, if some of that food actually went to illegal immigrants, I'm not going to cry about it, because feeding hungry people is good for everybody. But I know you don't care about them. I know you don't think that they're humans. I know you don't think that they have human rights. I know you don't care because you're a total piece of shit. That's clear. It's fine. But what I'm saying is, how many Americans who deserve that food are you willing to starve to prevent one illegal immigrant from getting the food? You still haven't given me the number, and I'd like to know.
Well, what's the number of the American citizens that got their benefits stopped?
It's millions.
Millions?
Yeah, it's millions.
How is it millions?
Well, I mean, there's actually two kind of separate instances what I'm talking about here, which is one is that there was the government shutdown that ended SNAP benefits, and then a judge ordered him to pay it out as like a stopgap to prevent people from starving, and he refused. That's the one thing I was talking about a second ago. He also changed the rules for SNAP benefits in the big beautiful bill such that a great number of people no longer were eligible for SNAP benefits, and then he went on the TV and lied during his address and said that I raised this many millions of people out of poverty so they don't need SNAP benefits anymore. And literally all he did was redefine redefined the bet. That's not good. He just he didn't make those people raised out of poverty. He just took their benefits away and then declared that he had risen them out of poverty because they're not on benefits anymore.
So what do you think? What do you think happens to an individual when he just
how many? No. We have a program. I'm going to hypothetically say we have a program. We have a program that feeds 100 hungry kids. These are kids whose parents are really screwing up at their jobs or whatever, a bunch of terrible stuff. Whatever you want to say about the parents, I don't care. The hungry children are getting fed. Right. There's 100 of them. I'm saying how many of those children need to be illegal immigrants for you to say that the program is bad?
All of them, because the program is it's faulty. The program is faulty.
Stop talking about reality. This is a hypothetical. If you can't track a hypothetical,
reality.
No. I say this all the time, dude. If you're incapable of tracking a hypothetical, then you're incapable of having a debate about anything important, and you lack critical reasoning skills. The question is: ignore Trump, ignore SNAP, ignore America. We're talking about hypothetical spherical chicken in a vacuum shit here.
Okay.
100 kids. I have a program. Maybe it's a private charity that I run. I fed 100 kids. I'm trying to only feed citizens. How many of the 100 kids that I feed have to be non-citizens for you to say that it's a terrible program and I shouldn't do it?
All of them.
All of them have to be. So if 99 of them are illegal immigrants and one of them is a citizen, then that's okay and the program is worth doing.
No. I'm saying you should stop the program, period. If you have one individual who's receiving funds that they're not supposed to be receiving.
I got one to say it out loud, everybody. Republicans would starve 99 children to prevent one from eating who they think didn't deserve the meal. W host or W guest? Let me know in the chat.
No.
Let me know in the chat.
I mean, why not? See, that's the thing when people
that's inhumane, dude. That's you have to be a human first. I'm a human first and a patriot second.
Well, if you're a human first, then go ahead and grab all your money, all your, that piano you got back there, that mic you have, that computer, all that nice stuff you have. Go ahead and pawn it, sell it, get that cash, and go feed all those hungry kids.
My particular skill, my superpower, the thing I'm good at in the world, because not everybody should. I'm answering your question. Yeah, I could liquidate everything and give it all away for free, but what I'm saying is that's.
Well, then you're a shitty person because you don't.
I'm answering. You think you have this big gotcha? You're going to let me get my report? What I'm saying is that if everybody did that, we would immediately all be out of money and we wouldn't be able to work on anything bigger. And that's not necessarily the best thing to do, because maybe as the folk musician I am, I can have some success by playing the piano, and that can make me more money than I can go donate. Maybe I can gain enough popularity that I can do a fundraiser that lots of people donate to, and that would go feed tons of children. That's maybe not the most effective way for me to do that, because even if what I'm doing is charitable, I still need to invest in myself to get there. And I will point out as an aside that I'm actually succeeding at that, not by playing the piano, as it turns out. I wish it was by playing the piano, but oh well, music careers are hard. I am actually having success as a debate host, getting people like you to say the quiet part out loud like I just did. And a lot of people are listening and paying attention to me. And the little bit of money that I make means that I get to spend more time doing that. And that's a better thing for me to spend that money on than giving it to hungry kids. Because if I spend more time doing this and having conversations with people like you, people are going to listen to what you say and what I say and think, holy shit, maybe I should donate some money to a food charity. So if you're listening to this, please go donate some money to a food charity.
Yeah, go donate money to a food charity.
Yeah, so my superpower in this thing might not be buying canned food. My superpower in this thing is communication and entertainment, because I'm a communicator and an entertainer. It's what I'm good at. I'm entertaining.
Okay. Can you give me about a minute or so to explain to you my philosophy and the reason why I believe that?
Tell me why it's okay to starve 100 kids to stop one from eating. So, by the way, we are talking about starving 100 kids to make sure that we starve an additional kid, to be clear. So, tell me why that's good.
So you mentioned you're limited in money, right? You're not a rich person. You're not
in the bio. Yeah.
We broke, right? We all broke. How much money are we willing to give into organization or the government to say, hey, you know what? Yeah, here, take another 10 cents out of my dollar. Okay, here. Oh, someone has some terrible situation. Oh, okay, here's another 10 cents. Okay, here's another 10 cents. Those 10 cents add up. And at the end of the day, you look around and you're like, whoa, holy shit. I've given all my dollars and I'm still at a worse position. I'm actually probably starving just like those little kids now, because it's a faulty system. Having the government.
I'm gonna be straight up, dude. I'm not tracking with you with what you're explaining. What are you talking about? Like, yes, I understand. I understand that if I took every bit of spare money that I had and gave it to the homeless guy on the corner who probably wouldn't spend it wisely, that would be like not a good use of my charity. There are better things for me to do.
So why should the government do this?
Because
why should the government do it?
Because the evidence shows that these programs that feed these hungry kids and their families are wildly good for the economy. It stops people from becoming homeless. It stops people from staying in poverty. It gives them the space and breathing room they need economically to work harder and get a better job. Most people who are on these benefits are only on them for a short time, 1 or 2 years, something like that. So there's loads of evidence that the net benefit to people like you and me who never use these programs, because I've never personally used that type of program. I don't know if you have, but again, like I have. So the answer is that the benefit for everybody is very, very good. It's good for the economy. It prevents the money we spend feeding these people is less money than we would spend incarcerating them for robbing the grocery store, because guess what? Hungry people will find a way to eat, and we can just give them SNAP benefits and then they can go to the grocery store and eat, and that is economically better for everybody than if some of them start robbing the grocery store because they can't afford food.
But instead of investing a lot of money of taxpayer monies into these giveaway programs, so why don't you just invest in the country and bring back manufacturing?
We have found this awesome little glitch where the cheapest way to do that is literally just let me explain to you the efficiency of the SNAP benefit program. A lot of food benefit programs are very, very bloated in terms of their overhead because food storage and transportation is very expensive. You need warehouses to store them in. Sometimes those warehouses need climate control. You need trucks to move them. Those trucks need to be climate controlled. It's a very
See what I mean?
Right.
Who's paying for that?
No, we're not.
But who's paying for all that?
Nobody, because the SNAP benefit
taxpayer.
Dude, no, you're not listening. The SNAP benefit program has figured out a way around this by leveraging the existing infrastructure of the grocery stores, because the grocery stores already do that, and all the government has to do is give the benefit recipient a square little piece of plastic that they swipe in the POS at the grocery store, and that has their benefit money on it. So the amount of overhead in feeding these people is negligible. It's just the cost of employing people who work at the program and literally shipping out the little SNAP cards. So instead of having to do all that, when we had the government shutdown, a lot of charities were suddenly tasked with feeding these people who no longer had SNAP benefits, and they were freaking out about getting storage and freezers and trucks, like all this wasted overhead that then went, was kind of wasteful purchasing for them because the shutdown ended. And what I'm saying is that when you just a second ago said, let's find a program that really invests in people in a really affordable way and has really good benefits. Yeah, we figured that the fuck out. It's the SNAP benefit program.
Well, we're still paying more money into it. We're still spending more money, and yet we're still having starving children.
No, you're just declaring that it's not true what I'm saying, and what I'm saying is that that relative to the benefit it gives to the American people, even those who don't receive the benefits directly, the SNAP benefit program is a success story. It has a minuscule fraud rate because it's impossible to sign up for it unless you're a citizen, and the benefits that we get proportion to the money that we spend.
False.
Prove
that's false, because you know why?
The burden is on you to prove that.
All right, so by
the way, I may have misspoken. I think it is. I'm not sure off the top of my head. I think non-citizens are eligible for SNAP in certain cases, but you do have. But illegal immigrants aren't. Illegal immigrants aren't. Illegal immigrants aren't, though. That's
how do you know that?
I know that illegal immigrants aren't. I'm saying that, I think that people with legal status can get. My point is the government. You have to be documented. You can't hop the border and go get SNAP benefits. It's a made up problem.
But that's the thing. That's what was happening under the Biden administration. Was okay.
You need to prove this bullshit, dude. You're saying nonsense. This is all false. The SNAP benefit program is a success story and has a minuscule fraud rate. It's negligible. It's like 100 people per state or something out of tens of millions.
You understand how people stay rich? Because they have lawyers, right? They understand the law. They know how to manipulate the law. They understand how to decipher the law.
Dude, you're not responding to any of this.
Well, it's going to respond to it. What the Biden administration did during the influx of illegal immigrations into the country is they decided, like, hey, you know what? Okay, we'll just give them refugee status. That fixes a lot of issues. That gives us the ability to give them money, give them housing, give them pretty much a lot of benefits that the American people deserve.
No, and dude, the illegal immigrants cannot sign up for welfare programs.
But they're not illegal immigrants anymore because the Biden administration said, hey, guess what? I'll give you amnesty, or I'll give you
the number of those cases is really, really small and pertains to a particular situation where people get like refugee status. We're talking about hundreds or thousands of people, whereas the number of illegal immigrants is 12 million. Those people don't get benefits. You're not making sense, dude.
The Biden administration just gave a million people refugee status as they were coming into. How do you know?
We give lots of people refugee status. I'm saying that the Biden administration did,
but not in millions.
You need to prove that Biden did something unusual, dude. He didn't. This is made up nonsense. You've been fooled into
he
thinking
just
these
gave
programs are bad when I'm explaining to you how they're good, and you're ignoring every single thing that I say.
I'm not ignoring everything that you're saying. I'm actually giving you counter arguments on your opinion.
You also told me that you would starve 100 kids to make sure that you starve an additional kid.
Yeah, to make sure that the program is legit and it's not going to go ahead and...
Let me ask you a question. This is just a general question, because obviously I don't think this is going to be a very productive call, but I just want a general question. Again, work your hardest to forget everything you know about fine dining and breathing. Sorry, just SpongeBob references, but ignore everything for a second. I just have like a broad question about like social programs or government programs in general. Do you recognize that when there are hundreds of millions of people in a country, tens or hundreds of millions of people who might use a particular resource or program, that the acceptable fraud rate, where we go, there's some fraud, but it's so small that that's not a big deal, that number is greater than zero. Like we can't like, stop the entire country and take away people's civil rights because one person got a meal they weren't supposed to. That the fraud rate isn't zero and shouldn't be zero. You understand that, right?
Wait, did you just say the fraud rate isn't zero and it shouldn't be zero?
Yeah, I'm saying that the acceptable target rate of fraud for these sorts of programs shouldn't be zero, because in order to make it zero, we would have to have a police state.
It should be zero. It's my money. It's your money.
Ideally, it would be zero. But what I'm saying is that the rate is
if you go commit fraud at a bank, are you going to go to prison?
What I'm saying is that here's an example. Here's a simple example. If you run a convenience store, there's an acceptable rate of shoplifting, because you're not going to catch a 6-year-old stealing a candy bar and shoot him in the face. Maybe you know that he steals that candy bar.
I mean, you're not. Why would you? I mean, come on. That's a little bit extreme, but...
Yeah, it is a little bit extreme to starve 100 fucking kids to make sure that you starve another one. That's what I'm saying. I'm pointing out that what you think is
no, that's ridiculous. Not extreme, because that's actually people's money.
It's the shopkeeper's money when that kid gets to the shopkeeper knows that the kid steals the candy bar, but he goes, you know what? Yeah. That's an acceptable rate of fraud. It's not worth getting his family upset and or having him afraid. How many shopkeepers you can think that are going to say, hey, you know what? They're going to let every little kid. Not saying everyone. I'm just saying that the acceptable rate isn't zero. But you need to have, if Target wanted their shoplifting rate to be zero, they would need to have a security guard posted in every single aisle, and they are working on it. They started in the Sky Palantir stuff, but again, there's an acceptable rate of fraud on everything, and this is something that people on the right don't seem to understand.
It's called the flock system.
I was talking about Target, but what I'm saying, if you worked in Target's security branch at Target corporate, and you said this rate of shoplifting is unacceptable, it needs to be zero, and then what your boss would tell you is, well, if we made it zero, we'd have to turn the store into this really creepy you get handcuffed.
Yeah, they started locking up the deodorant. Yeah, and they started locking up the razors, and they started locking
and those make the store
so they can prevent shoplifting.
Yeah, but
then that costs money.
The degree to which they would have to do that to get the shoplifting rate to be zero would make the store unusable, and then they would lose more money because people wouldn't shop there. So there's an acceptable rate of fraud that they're targeting.
That's what happened to Walgreens and a lot of CVS's. Why do you think a lot of them started closing down?
Yeah, because the economy's bad and people are desperate and they're shoplifting more.
No,
what I'm saying is that
because of shoplifting. Yeah, exactly.
Right. What I'm saying is that there's an acceptable rate, though. If it was very small,
there shouldn't be So if I go into your house and I steal your guitar, is that an acceptable rate of stealing from you?
I only have a handful of guitars, so any one of them represents an enormous percentage. So no. But if Guitar Center reports how many people manage to walk out of a Guitar Center with a guitar every year, and the number is so small that the program that it would take to prevent that from happening is more expensive than the guitars, they go, that's stupid. Let's not deal with it.
See, the thing is to say it's so small, but the thing is, okay, when one person steals something, what do you think that one person's going to tell other people? Guess what? I stole this from this store. And then what's that going to... It's a chain reaction,
is
right?
Good. I'm just saying that the amount of what you would have to do to prevent it from happening forever is so bad. The amount of... There's a diminishing marginal utility on enforcement actions. So, for example, if there's too much speeding, we can post more police officers on the shoulder and have them pull people over.
But then you'll have a police state.
Well, that's what we do. We put police officers on the shoulder and they pull people over for speeding, and the speeding rate goes down, but it never goes to zero. In order to get it to zero, it deters it. In order to get it to zero, we would need a police state, and we go, you know what? A couple people speeding isn't as big a problem as having a police state, so we let the couple people speed. Now, if everybody's speeding, that's a big problem, and we will address it. What I'm saying is there's an amount of speeding that becomes a point where we have to go, okay, this is getting out of hand, we need to deal with it. What I'm saying is that the number of people who get benefits from welfare programs is so small that it is like noise. Like you would have a better time like spending your time making those organizations more efficient, maybe firing some people and have some redundant jobs, or like getting their office supplies under control, because the amount of money lost to fraud and welfare programs is so minuscule that any solution you present to me is more expensive to the American people than the fraud itself. And that's just not a good use of our time, because there's so much to fix in this country. We're never going to get it all. And you're sitting here stuck on making sure that you starve every last child, by the way, which is fucking insane. And you think that is good cause to do anything on that you can think of to get this fraud rate down to zero. Here's what would get the fraud rate down to zero. I know how to get the fraud rate down to zero. Do you know? The world over, I can stop all fraud on Earth. You know what we have to do?
What?
Nuke every city. We have to unalive every human. I think we have the power to do it. I think the U.S. military could unalive every human by like making the air on Earth unbreathable or something, and that would get the fraud rate to zero. Should we do that?
I mean, COVID-19, it was a project. It's pretty bad.
Yes or no? Should we unalive every human on Earth to get the fraud rate to zero? Because it would work.
I mean, yeah, that's wild. It's a wild it's a wild theory.
Yeah, and like starving children is a wild way to get rid of a minuscule amount of fraud. That's what I'm pointing out.
But guess what? Guess what? The government doesn't have to have that function. Another organization or someone who's willing to say, hey, you know what?
There's starving children out there. I'm going to go ahead and use my money for good and feed those children.
I've laid out the ways in which feeding those children is really, really good for the country. And they are children. It's not their fault they're hungry. That's why I focus on
kids. It's the parents' responsibility. And that's the point I wanted to make earlier. You kind of went on a rant a little bit, but in regards to going back to fraud should not be at 0%. Okay, do you think you're going to be motivated to do something if you say, hey, you know what, it's going to happen. Oh, well, why should I care? It's whatever. Or are you going to have more pride and more
I'm going to give you another example, because I just really can't understand how your brain doesn't work. So here, let's say that you had like street corner stands where you're selling cookies, okay? And you know how many cookies you send to the street corner stands, and you know how many you sell, and then you know how much money shows up, and you go, wait a minute. We have 1,000 stands, and on average, when a stand reports how many cookies they sold, and they bring all the cookies they have back, and they bring all the money, it adds up. But not always, you know, like they say that
someone probably pocketed some money.
Listen to me. What I'm saying is that, okay, so on the average stand, they sold like $1,000 worth of cookies. $1,000 worth of cookies are missing, but there's only $985 in the cash box or something like that. There's a little discrepancy.
Someone stole some money, right?
Right. Okay. So do you hire a security guard $100 to stand by the stand a day to fix that?
No, I would come up with the systems like, hey, we're going to balance everybody before we leave.
You answer no. You don't spend $100 hiring the security guard to fix the fraud, because the fraud is $15 and the security guard is $100.
No, because you don't need a security guard for that situation. All you got to do is say, hey, you know what? All right, everybody line up. All right, we're going to go ahead and balance your till sheet. All right, you got 1,000. Hey, well, how come you're short? Oh, did you put some in your pocket? Okay, guess what? You're fired. Nice to meet you.
Now you lose $1,000 the next day, $1,000 worth of sales, because there's nobody to run that stand.
Okay. Hey, I'd rather lose $1,000 than $100,000.
Right, but you would lose
because those $20 add up.
Right, but
do you understand?
If they added up to 100,000, then the amount that you'd lose is millions, because you'd have to shut lots of stands down.
No, because then you'll just hire someone else that you could trust, and that's not going to steal from you.
But no. Now you're creating a demand for labor because you're firing people and requiring them to be more qualified. So now you have to pay them more per hour to man the booth. Their rate just went up from $20 to $30 an hour. The booth is run for 6 hours. That adds up to $60. That's more than $15. You would fail if you ran a business because you don't understand breakage. Breakage is the economic term for that discrepancy that will always be there in large systems.
So you're telling me your point is don't fire people if they steal from you. Is that your point?
No, I'm saying that there's a rate of breakage in a business that's acceptable. We don't know if it was fraud. We don't know if the person working the booth did it. We don't know. Maybe somebody shoplifted from the booth and they didn't notice. Like there's lots of reasons.
Well, then what you gotta do, an investigation, right?
Investigations are expensive. So if it's $15 a breakage on $1,000 in sales, it's not worth it. Because
as a business owner, I'll just be like, hey man, what happened? You're short. What's going on?
Again, you're just trust me broing on the fact that the solution is going to be less expensive than the fraud. But I gave you an example where the solution is arbitrarily inexpensive.
No, it's not inexpensive because it adds
Make
up.
it smaller.
That's
Okay. What if the discrepancy was $1, $999, and it was supposed to be $1,000?
Okay, so $99, right? No, or 99 cents or $99 or whatever. All right, multiply that by 365 days. How much is
However many booths there are, whatever that difference is, whatever you have to multiply it by, you also have to multiply the cost of the solution against that. So it doesn't matter how many booths there are. The question is,
you fire the individual.
What I'm saying is that fixing that $1 of breakage will cost you more than $1. So if you choose to do that, you're doing a terrible job running the business.
Your goal is zero. Yes, I understand that. Hey, shit happens, but it should always be zero, because if you don't put a high bar, which is like, hey, 0%, I'm not going to have anybody steal from me. Okay. Now
firing a person over $1, like for example, I've been the teacher that steals like a pack of fucking index cards every once in a blue moon to save me a trip to the store. It's not really
is it right?
Well, I mean,
dude, honestly, I would argue that it is, because I know my bosses don't give a shit and want to save me the trip to the store. It's like not that big a deal. Like again, you don't fire somebody over $1.
Did you say in your hypothetical? You said it was a school, right?
Yeah, or like an place with his office supplies. Yeah.
No, because I have a thing again. Like for me, for instance, I live in North Carolina. All right, so like teachers out here have to buy their own supplies, and it pisses me off because I'm like, well, where the
that's
fuck
fucked
is
up, right? That's super fucked up. Okay.
No.
I'm actually just going to pull the chat. No, sorry. I am going to listen to my chat because we have other people in the queue, and I don't think that we're going anywhere. So I'll give you a chance to say what you want to say before you go, but I am going to pull the queue, and I think I know the answer. Keep or kick. Let me know in the chat. Are we going to keep talking to El Chico about how he doesn't understand how to run a business? He doesn't understand shrinkage. Dude, go research shrinkage. Like this, if you took an economics or business course, this is a thing you get a lesson on. Like, I'm not making shit up. A lot of what do you think they do inventories to make sure to evaluate their shrinkage in between quarters? Yeah, and if the shrinkage is really small, they say it wouldn't be worth increasing security efforts, and you don't understand that. So, and also, there's about 30 kicks in the chat, and I don't see a single keep. Oh my God, is there a single keep? Let's look. Somebody says no. I'm going to say that probably is a kick. All right, that's a lot of kicks.
I like that. Chico's greedy.
Dude, you're greedy to a fault. You're so greedy that you'd burn your own house down to stop somebody from robbing.
You know why I'm greedy? You know why I'm greedy?
I have disconnected greedy. Sorry, Chico, who is greedy. We're going to talk to Cody. Let me just take a quick... Let me rub my eyes. That guy was such a bad person. It kind of hurt my feelings how bad a person that guy was. He wants to starve 100 children to make sure that he starves the child he's trying to starve. We're going to talk to Cody. We're going to ask Cody the question we always start with, which is after we make sure that you're a Trump supporter, or we'll make sure you're a Trump supporter after, but how old are you, Cody?
Oh, shit. Sorry. I don't even know how I got on here. My bad.
Oh,
sorry. I clicked the wrong button.
No worries. Goodbye. All right. Oh, somebody else was in the queue. So if you want to come back, Chico, I'm not going to talk to you again, at least not until another day. Go read about shrinkage in business. That really is it. It's a meme to say that Republicans will starve 100 kids to prevent somebody from stealing a meal. And I literally got a guy to say it exactly that way out loud. The guy, I mean, that was one of my more thorough cookings, like on the idea of him not understanding that there's breakage in a business and that's applicable to like what the rate of fraud for a welfare thing is. Like, yeah, literally willing to burn the house down to prevent it from being robbed. Absolutely insane. Says the guy who owns thousands of musical instruments. That was the guy who was just up commenting that, and I'll respond to that and say that, like, I've had some economic hardship in my life, not super recently, but like a couple years before that, and most of the music stuff that I own, like most of the value that sits in this room are instruments that were either given to me as a gift or belong to other people and are on indefinite loan because my friends believe in me and want me to be successful and know that I can't afford these sorts of things. So thanks to everybody who's helped me along the way. It like warms my heart that so many people believe in me, but no, I couldn't afford all these instruments. Also, they're not expensive. This is like an $80 MIDI keyboard. It's not like, not even weighted keys. If you want me to have weighted keys, support the stream. Yeah. Donate to the hungry children. Don't be greedy. Yeah, El Chico, you just spent a long time on this call telling me that you don't understand economics. You could have spent that time working at a soup kitchen. I guess you're a bad person. My goodness. Canadian hat. Am I anti-American? No, I am a Canadian American. I was born in New York, so I'm a naturalized birthright citizen, but my mom is a Canadian immigrant, and she mailed me this hat from Canada, and I wear it sometimes. What's the problem? I might move to Canada. Things are not looking great here, civil rights wise. I mean, I will point out that like the bigger flag that I have on display is pretty American. That's a Minnesota state flag that says "fuck ICE" on it. I think that's, that gets more, like in terms of how much of the frame is taken up by flags. We have a little Canadian flag and we've got an enormous state flag. It does say "fuck ICE" on it. You probably think is un-American. Somebody says, so you're Canadian. That's why I'm so liberal. I don't even get that. I'm an American, but I do have dual citizenship. Lee is in Minnesota. Howdy, neighbor. I'm MAGA. If you don't have a flag at all times, you're not a patriot. That's so you think that you're the arbiter of how people get to decorate their homes. That's un-American. That's a violation of the First Amendment right, and I think that you are unpatriotic for thinking that. And I'm actually going to mute you. Because if you want to say these things to me, you can hit the request button and we can have a conversation in front of all my friends, and we'll see how that goes. But I don't imagine it'll go all that well for you. So I'm going to mute you. Chico, you're just also getting muted because I've heard enough of your shit today. Yeah, but wear a mask again. Like the reason we had to wear a mask during COVID was not because of some political affiliation. And the thing that was creating the danger that made mask wearing sensible wasn't a person, it was a disease. So like, yes, very terrible, the thing that COVID did to Earth. I got a flag for harassment and bullying. That's okay. We can just let that one sit for 10 minutes. It'll go away in 10 minutes. If I was doing any harassment and bullying, I think that the target was deserving of it. So I'll just take the L on that flag. But that does mean we're probably not going to get any fresh callers in here because I'm not going to get shown on the For You page for the next 10 minutes. Palantir says, gotta run. Thanks for hanging out, dude. Appreciate it. It's called being respectful for others' health. Yeah, I mean, again, it's just the idea that there's any analogy between like Republicans telling us to stay home instead of protesting and COVID telling us to stay home so we don't die. Like those aren't the same thing. Tap during the flag. Yeah, you should get tapping away. What do we got? 21,000 likes. I bet by the end of the flag we can get to 40. I bet we can double that if you guys actually get to working on it because there's 120 of you. But yeah, do we have any Trump supporters still cooking away in the chat? Because I do want to talk to you. Most people don't know that Canadians are American. I keep getting called on that when they're like, well, America is North America. I'm like, fine, United States of America, whatever. Semantics is semantics. Let's talk about MAGA corruption. There's lots of MAGA corruption. I don't block Trump supporters in the chat. I do, if I don't have a caller, sometimes mute them for the day, which means they can come back and chat again tomorrow. But I mute them in the chat to encourage them to continue the conversation by getting up here and talking in front of everybody else. So that's my policy on that. I don't block people just for being Trump supporters. I block people for violating TOS in the chat. And then they're like, like the 8th time you tell me that I have bad teeth, I usually block that person. But like, you're allowed to say that I have bad teeth. I do. I'm not really like worried about personal attacks on here. If anything, it just makes, MAGA Americans look bad that they want to, talk about these issues and they're more concerned about like how many push-ups I can do or whatever. Really like all that like alpha male manosphere stuff is just such an ugly look I don't think people in the manosphere realize that to people who are not in the manosphere like that, they look atrocious. Like that is only working on you and your buddies. It's a big circle jerk of you all thinking that you're being manly, and the rest of the world, including most women, are just like not into it. Red flag. Whenever anybody like calls me a beta male, I'm like, I don't even care what you think about me. You're the type of person who uses the phrase beta male. I don't value your opinions. Sorry, that's the look it gives you to serious people. Okay. Tezra says, I'm new here. And I already like your live. Followed. I appreciate you, Tezza. Yeah, get following me if you're not following me. There's 100 people in here, and I wish it told me. I wish it gave me the number so I could call you guys out, where I'm like, all right, I got 30 new follows, 100 followers, but 20 of you aren't following me. I wish I could call you out, but maybe you are all following me. And I did get some follows. Thank you, Matt, for the follow. Appreciate that. ChatGPT is in the chat. He says, still Republican, of course. MAGA, not so sure anymore. That's fine. I'm not so mad at normal Republicans. If you're a Republican and you believe in, like, you know, you want restrictions on abortion, or, like, you know, maybe a less progressive tax rate, like, I disagree with you on those things, but I don't think that makes you a traitor to the country. But I think if you're educated on what Trump is doing, then supporting him makes you a traitor to the country. And most people who support him aren't traitors. They're just fools. They've just been fooled into believing all this nonsense that I've been talking about on this live and all the other lives I've done. But yeah, so I consider you a friendly in terms of the purpose of the live if you're a Republican who recognizes that Trump is a problem. Stay says Republicans are an issue in this country. I do think that there's complacency among the right about practices like telling lies. I saw a fun meme where it was like somebody with like a scorecard for A and B, and there's like 5 or 6 tally marks on the A side, and then on the B side there's like 600 tally marks, and they go, look, both sides do it, it's the same. And that's the situation we're in. It's like, yeah, Swalwell did some bad things, yeah, Biden told some lies, Obama bombed some people that he shouldn't have. Like, yeah, there's that's about it. You know, I mean, there's more than that, but you know, it's that versus Trump doing something that bad almost every day. That's the difference. It's okay if we don't see eye to eye, but for what Trump is doing, I can agree with you. Yeah, again, like, I would love to go back to an America where we just get to debate like normal shit, like tax policy and like all that stuff. But yeah, we just have a bigger problem than that right now, which is that the Constitution isn't being followed. Constitution's not being followed, and that's bad. That's bad. Obama wore a tan suit, says one of my regular viewers, Tori. Yeah. Let's not forget, you know, Trump's hiding the Epstein files, but let's not forget that Obama wore a tan suit one time. The entire Republican Party right now is complete garbage, according to Stay. Yeah, I mean, I don't want to condemn. I think that there's a lot of people in the Republican Party that I want to be on my team, so I don't say such like broadly condemning things. But I guess I say what I said a second ago. I want to commend people who recognize that their party is doing a really bad thing. But if you're a conservative and you just like, I still think that's bad. I still think that being a liberal is better than being a conservative in the non-partisan sense, where like there are liberal and conservative values that have nothing to do with the party. I still think the liberal is the right side to be on, but just in less of a like, you know, I think right now it's really un-American to support what the Republicans are up to. Like that's the I guess the broadest point. So you can be a Republican, you can wish that the Republican Party was doing, you know, normal Republican Party things, but if you're okay with what's going on now, that's really, really bad. DG says Trump's going to pardon Maxwell, but it's okay. Shake my head. Dude, how scandalous if he pardons Maxwell. I mean, they already have her in a cushier prison than she belongs in, and Trump does pardon some really, really, really bad people. Will I need to remind us again that the very week that we captured the Venezuelan president for DRUG crimes and extradited him to New York, that week we pardoned the Honduran president for DRUG crimes? What is this nonsense? What is this nonsense? Trump wears a diaper. He's 80. He's 80. Yeah, was just too old. We should stop electing people who are going to be octogenarians when they finish their term. Yeah, the chat is going like, wow, you did what? Because people forget. People don't notice these things because there's such a whirlwind of crazy things that the Trump administration is doing that you know, people just let it breeze on by when crazy shit like that happens, and it just falls out of the news cycle. So it's up to people like me to not drop it, to just constantly remind people. Like the number of times I've asked somebody on this live, explain to me why he pardoned the Honduran president the same week he captured the Venezuelan president when it was for the same type of charges. I've not heard a satisfying answer to that. Oh, well, there's just so much more DRUG coming out of Venezuela. False. Nope. More comes from Honduras. Like that's Nope. It's that Venezuela has the largest oil reserves on the planet. That's the reason. Because even among South American countries, not that many DRUGs. Okay, hold on. How do I get to my notification center? I want to driver update. Somebody who's an expert on live streaming. How do I see if I still have a restriction from the live thing? Because I know it's visible to me when I'm on my phone, but I don't stream from my phone anymore. This is way better. I'd like to know when it ends. I forgot to note the time, but I think it's about now. So if you want to keep double tapping away on the screen. Wow, I really was right. I asked for double it to get to 40K by the time the restriction ended, and we're about there, and there's 3,700 or 37,000 likes. So I appreciate that. If everybody keeps double tapping away, in just a moment here, we're going to open back up to the For You page. And that means we should get a new Trump supporter in here, because as deplorable as the guy was, that conversation with el.chico.tech.edu was just, DG says, you still have a flag. I can't repost yet. There's a litmus test. So let me know when you're able to, I'll be able to see it in the chat when you guys can repost, but it should be soon in the next 2 minutes or so. So we're just going to hang out together and keep on it. Let's see. Thank you for the follow, ChatGPT. I appreciate you. What's going on with Argentina that he wants to sell the Patagonia glaciers? Are we trying to sell glaciers? What kind of scheme is that? How does one sell a glacier? Is it because they have fresh water in them? If they're going to melt, we may as well drink the water, I suppose. I don't think that's what's going on. I don't know. Maybe I'll have to Google that on my own time. Ryan says, I was going to join, but you call people deplorable, so there's no sense in it. I think if you listened to the previous call, you would call him a deplorable. But Ryan, I don't start with the venom. He gave me good reason. You can ask the chat. Chat, am I immediately mean to everybody? Yes or no? These are my people who watch every day. So really, I'm not... I really don't jump down people's throats until they give me a reason to, and I would argue that there's definitely some reasons right now to jump down people's throat. Hello, Midwest Progressive. Good to see you in the chat. It's actually something. It's why I have a bunch of Republican followers. Is that I give people a chance to show me that they're just misguided or that they don't understand something. But a lot of people demonstrate to me that they actually do understand. They're just bad people, and then that's when I kind of change my tone. But I really think that the most constructive calls are the ones where somebody's maybe not educated about, in today's case, an economic principle like shrinkage or breakage is what we were talking about. Ryan, dude, let's see, dude. I really do want to talk to you. We can, you can bail if you don't like the way I'm talking to you, but even because you're sitting here with this sort of reticence about getting up, he did get up. Wow, he actually listened. Fantastic. Yeah, dude, I'm not going to start by jumping down your throat. I am going to start by asking you the question I start with everybody, which is, how old are you? How old are you, Ryan?
34.
34, okay. And you say you're a Trump supporter?
Yeah, I wanted Rand Paul to win the first time, but
okay, yeah.
I
just got through saying that I don't really condemn people who are just normal Republicans who want to maybe go back to the normal way that we did politics in this country before Trump got here. But you. Yeah. So I'll ask it this way because it's a good way to ask. If the election was to happen again today, would you still vote for Trump instead of Kamala?
100%.
Yeah. Why? Why do you think that Trump's better
given
for
the
America?
options? Yeah.
Yeah, why?
I think, so the way I grew up, I think has a lot to do with it, but I think, this is where you're going to start getting mad right off the get-go. The main thing that I was excited about is that I actually did want him to collapse the economy. I wanted him to start the 2008 recession the first day he got into office so we can just get over the hump and start building again. And that didn't happen, and that made me upset.
There is a title for this belief system, and I am going to talk to you about it because it's something that if you were on Dean Withers' show, maybe you've been on Dean Withers' show, he'd kick you right away for being what's called an accelerationist. Has that happened to you? Has Dean kicked you for being an accelerationist?
No, I never get on. I just seen this. I never do this.
Yeah.
Get on lives or anything.
Okay, yeah. So there is a label for your particular approach to this, which is that you recognize that Trump is really, really bad for the economy. You recognize all this bad stuff, and you essentially want it to happen so we can just go back to rebuilding, right?
Well, I don't think he's bad for the economy necessarily, because I think drilling oil in your own country and using your own resources is a great idea. I'm a logger, so I'm biased.
Yeah, so Biden actually had a bunch of... Wait, I just want to check if you're aware that Biden is the reason we're drilling so much more. He opened up the drilling, which is a good thing, because especially with what's going on with gas prices right now, it has protected us from some of the global market issues.
Yeah, that is good. He used all the oil reserves, I thought.
Who?
I thought Biden used up all the oil reserves we had. Now we have to rebuild.
No, and the oil reserves are never actually that big. Trump released like a third of the oil reserves recently as a stopgap because of Iran, and people like me were immediately saying like, yeah, I suppose it's good that he did that this week for gas prices, but at the rate at which he would have to do that in order to fix the gas price problem caused by Iran, we're going to run out of oil reserves very, very soon, which is why he hasn't released more and gas prices keep going up. But again, so why do you think that to fix the economy, we should first destroy it? You're saying burn the house down and build a new one.
Exactly. Well, I think that there's no way, if we keep going the way we're going, there is no way that kids getting out of high school and stuff will ever be able to afford a house. Ever. I mean, they'll be lucky to afford apartments. No, I don't think it's Kamala giving everybody our own 20 grand back to put down on a house.
Well, I wasn't going to talk about that specifically. I was just going to talk about more progressive tax policy that lightens the burden on like poorer Americans and makes the burden more weighty for those who can afford to pay more taxes. And then we use those programs to make life better for all those people who you just said couldn't get jobs.
That's where the Republican comes in, because I think that there should be very, very little taxes paid.
Why?
Because it's my money. I work for it.
Do you build?
Why should I be penalized
So
for
the
making
roads that
more
you drive
money?
your car on, do you pave them?
Yeah.
But how?
No, I mean I pay for them.
But you're saying.
But why do I have to pay for everybody? There's got it. What I'm saying is there's definitely a simpler way than me paying more money so someone else can make more money to pay for their houses.
Are you familiar with the time in American history when we built the interstate? Do you know when that happened, like roughly?
No, I don't.
It was during the baby boomer era. So after World War II, we had all this industry, all this, and then all this economic freedom because the war had ended. So everybody had been holding their breath on all their projects. And then, people were building their white picket fence homes and having their kids. And, this was the baby boom. And one of the things that the United States did is we leveraged a ton of taxpayer money to get the country connected because that made the country better. Made the country better that you could drive to that next city over and get that new job or whatever it is that, So do you know, like, at its peak, because it went up and down some, but during those couple of decades, the late 40s, 50s, 60s, early 70s, do you know what the highest tax bracket rate was at like what the peak of the highest progressive tax rate was during that time?
No, I have no idea.
Would you care to wager a guess?
No, I'd just go ahead and tell me.
It's 90%.
They tax them 90% of their wage?
No, that's not how tax. Do you understand how tax brackets work?
Oh yeah, I mean, if you made $1 million, then you'd pay $900,000.
No, because you still don't pay very much taxes on the first couple of dollars that you make. And then, when it's not as though like if the tax bracket became 90% at $1 million, it's not like when you go from $999,999 to $1 million, suddenly you get taxed 90%. All the money that you've made up until that point is still taxed at the lower brackets. It's every dollar above that $1 million or whatever the level was. That's where it starts getting taxed at 90%. So you still get to keep most of your take-home wealth that you've made so far. It's just all this ridiculous extra wealth gets used to pave the interstates, in my opinion.
I still just don't see how penalizing people for making more money is the solution. I just don't understand how that would be.
I can explain to you how it's fair.
I would say a better way would be to let's fucking restart. But my main thing is like,
but if we restart, if we restart, we would just have to build a system that works better. And in order to do that, we would have to look at how we've done that in the past. And the way that we've done that in the past is by having an enormous marginal tax rate above a certain level, like 90%.
Hear me out. If you were making $20 an hour in the 1980s, and then, you know what I mean? And the price of everything was significantly less. I mean, brand new pickups were what, $8,000, $10,000 or something?
Yeah, inflation's.
And then you're making $20 an hour nowadays, and the pickups are worth $80,000, $90,000, $120,000.
What you're describing is a big problem, which is.
I don't think it's a taxing issue.
What you're saying, but the problem is that we have there is that inflation has outpaced wages, which is one of the economic problems that can be addressed by the government spending money on things that improve those situations for people. But you're really breezing past this thing about maybe you not understanding how tax rates work. You say it's a penalty, but you still make more money for every additional dollar that you make. The amount of that dollar you get to take home reduces as each additional dollar comes in. Do you understand why that's fair?
No, I don't.
Can I explain to you why?
I don't think that's fair at all.
Right.
Well, I'll tell you why. Well, I'll tell you why I don't think it's fair. I think that would be smarter. Then you can prove me wrong.
Okay.
The harder I work, the more I sacrifice, the more I do. Isn't worth it if you keep taking more money from me.
Well, there's a problem with what you just said, and it's not even the counter argument I was about to give, which is that you're assuming by saying that in order to double your salary, you have to work twice as hard, which is nonsense. That's not how it works at all. Do you think that a CEO works 1,000,000 times harder than their lowest paid employee?
No, not at all. That's a who you know situation. But I'm saying in the logging industry that I'm a part of.
Wait, but those are the people that we're talking about taxing. I don't think you, I mean, unless you make like more than $1 million a year, I'm not talking about you.
Which I don't. Yeah, which I don't.
You're right, then I'm not talking about that.
But when I think you should be $400,000 a year.
If you make that sort of difference, if you like work extra hard, if you really buckle down, like me, I make less than $100,000 a year. I conceivably could just work twice as hard and make double that roughly, and I'd be able to take most of that home. I'm not talking about that though. I am talking about the people who are CEOs and knew somebody and aren't working that hard.
I kind of understand that. I mean, I don't think people should have billions of dollars. But I also understand this part.
The tax rates, I'm supposing, would stop the billionaires from having billions of dollars. First of all, but
what I'm saying is,
I want to go back to the explanation that you gave your answer, and then I said, but you're not letting me get to why taxation of this type is fair. There's like a fundamental thing that I think you're missing about the way money works.
What I think's going on is every time I start a subject, you jump to another one, so I can't finish my thought on the last one we were just talking about.
I'm actually just trying to take us back to what we were talking about 30 seconds ago. I think what's going on is you're bringing up lots of stuff, and I'm trying to keep us on track. So I want to tell you why it's fair to tax people who make more. And it has to do with an economic principle called the diminishing marginal utility of currency, which is a big label for a thing. You don't have to memorize that. But what's important to understand is I use like this hamburger example, where if you're at a concert where hamburgers are kind of expensive at at venues, like a hamburger might be $20, and that's maybe kind of a high rate to pay for a hamburger. But if you're hungry, you might go, I'll have to buy an expensive burger so I can get a meal in so I have a nice time at this show. That makes sense, right?
Yeah. Yep.
And maybe you're the type of guy who normally eats 2 cheeseburgers if you're really hungry, but because they're so expensive at the concert, they're $20. You don't want the second one because maybe you'd be willing to pay $10 for the second hamburger, but because it's less valuable to you after eating the first one. Does that make sense?
I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, you don't even want the third one, right? It doesn't make a difference to you. Too full to eat it, so you may as well give it away. What I'm saying is that when you make your third $1 million, maybe it's so not valuable to you improving your life that you should give most of it away. You should the principle applies to money. That. Yeah. So just to round out the analogy, and when I say it's not just a good way to put it. This is a chapter in an economics textbook. If you took an economics class, the diminishing marginal utility of money is like a well-known principle about how people interact with money. So the reason we do a marginal tax rate, a progressive tax rate, is for exactly that reason. Where if we're trying to feed the hungry people in the stadium where you're watching this concert, you get to have your first hamburger. That's fine. We're not going to mess with it. If you get a second hamburger, you have to cut a third of it off and give it to somebody who's hungry. If you get a third or fourth hamburger, we're actually going to take most of that. And that would be a policy that feeds everybody, and you mostly still get to eat, even though you have to give up a little bit of that hamburger. That's all we're doing with money when it comes to the progressive tax rate. So what I'm saying is that you can have a mansion, you can have a pool in the backyard, you can have an $80,000 truck, you can have all this stuff you want, you can go live the American dream. You shouldn't have enough money to live 10 American dreams, though. Above a certain level, we should start taxing the heck out of you so we can build some roads so that some poorer people can drive to their jobs and get started on the process of living that dream. That's
I would understand that. I mean, that what you said made sense, and that's a great analogy. The way you put it, even a dumb hillbilly like me understood what you said. That was great.
Well, I assure you there's plenty of people who've heard that explanation who haven't folded on it, so I appreciate you listening. But what I'm saying, again, it's not, don't give me credit for it. This is like diminishing marginal utility is like a basic economic principle that you'd learn about in any business or economics class in a college. It's just that understanding these things, it makes it obvious to you that you're not being penalized for making more. We're actually saying that you shouldn't be penalized for being poor by having your taxes hurt more. Instead of measuring how much taxes hurt in dollars, we should measure how much it hurts in suffering, which is obvious with hamburgers, right? The hamburgers become worthless to you because you're not hungry anymore. Money becomes worthless to you quickly if you're not hungry anymore. If you're not struggling to pay your bills. which is why it's egregious that we don't charge like if there's a $25 fee for some code violation that like a bush in front of my house has, like the hedge is too tall or whatever. That's a problem. I'm gonna have to pay that fine every month. That's $25. That's more than an hour of work for me. Like that's a thing I need to deal with. Whereas a rich person might say, oh, it's $25 a month to have my hedge be so tall. Fuck it, I'll just pay the fee. And then suddenly the law doesn't really apply to that person because $25 is so much less valuable to them. There are countries that make those sorts of fines more expensive for wealthy people for exactly the reason I'm describing, so that it does deter wealthy people from doing nonsense like that and violating the law.
Yeah, that sounds great. That I don't feel like that has anything to do with Donald Trump personally right now, but
Donald Trump is very actively working against these principles. Is really what regarding like these economic concerns. The big beautiful bill took everything that I just said, ignored it, and fucked it up for the poor people. It redistributed wealth and buying power from the wealthy or from the poor to the wealthy. It made the problem worse.
So what I was worried about, what you were saying, because I've been on both sides. I've owned a business and I've been the employee. And what I was worried about is people don't understand that when you're the employee and you make like $100,000 a year, you get taxed what you're getting taxed. And then I make as the employer $400,000 a year. But you want me to be taxed more, but you don't understand how much money I've spent to make sure that you can work your job.
Okay, so forgive me for what I'm about to say, because it is a little, you might come across as a little mean. It does sound to me like you don't necessarily understand how all this works, which I hope maybe you're just misremembering because you said you ran a business. But no, obviously the money that we're talking about taxing is after expenses. I'm not saying that the tax brackets should be associated with your revenue. They should be associated with your profit. So yeah, if you spent $200,000 running your business and then the business made $400,000, the question is how much do we tax?
I'm saying if you made $400,000, I mean, you're spending $200,000 at least.
Right. So we don't tax the $400,000. We tax the remainder, the $200,000.
Yeah. Then how are you supposed to update?
What do you mean update?
How are you supposed to update your rigging, your equipment, and stay relevant?
Well,
you don't have any money because it got taxed.
Well, we don't. Well, $200,000 is not very much like business profit for a company. That wouldn't get taxed very heavily. If I designed the system and you were running a business that had $200,000 worth of investment in it and $400,000 of the profit, I would argue for the. I'm not saying a 90% tax rate on that $200,000. I'm saying that's not very much money.
Your cheeseburger analogy makes perfect sense.
For running a business, that's one cheeseburger. Now. You take that money home and you make your business better. Yep. Absolutely, I agree with you.
I agree. I wish I like your tax solution. Sounds great.
Yeah. If you spent $200,000 running your business and instead of $400,000 your profit was $4 million, I'd be like, dude, you got to give at least a third of that, half of that to the government. Come on.
I get it. Okay, I agree.
Yeah.
Sounds great. Let's do it.
Right. So what I'm saying is that the big beautiful bill did the opposite.
Okay.
It did it. Now he couldn't have just adjusted the tax brackets to make it to make all the difference by just adjusting the tax brackets. He did a bunch of things with tax policy, government spending, and benefit programs that obfuscated the degree to which the big beautiful bill hurt poor people and benefited wealthy people. He kind of spread out that wrongdoing across a bunch of different policies, which is why the bill was so big and enormous and created so much government debt. But this is all just. It all just sounds to me like with a broadened understanding of exactly the sort of tax policy that people like myself are pushing. It sounds like you like my policy more than Trump's. Is that accurate at this time?
No, Trump's. I never really paid attention. I used to get worked up about politics, and then I just gave up on it because I mean, you get wore out when it has nothing to do with me. I can change nothing. So I was like, I'm not even going to worry about it.
You started the conversation by talking about who you'd vote for if the election was held today.
But it would be Trump. And I'll tell you more reasons why.
Well, I just want to finish
things
this
that I do know
before
about.
We move on to other issues. I will just say that it sounds to me like if we were only talking about taxation and the economy, it sounds like you want Kamala Harris as a president based on everything we just discussed because she agrees with me on all of this.
Yeah, sounds great. Except for I don't like outsourcing all of our work and stuff, and people saying that we have to because we don't have enough people to do the work is actually a complete total lie.
Well, it depends on the type of work that we're talking about. There are certain
logging. I would say farming, logging, and mining. Those are things that I'm very familiar with.
Farming,
we have more than enough
we do a
people
lot
to work.
locally, but for example, if we're going to talk about logging, we do purchase a lot of lumber from Canada, and
Exactly.
and it has been really
Do a
bad
lot.
for the American. Why?
Well, if we just log our own timber and purchase our own timber, we don't have to compete with Canada, because we have to compete with Canada. If they lower their prices, we have to lower ours.
So there's one thing that happens when a president does something like institute taxes. And again, this is the obvious sort of outcome that you can read about in just an economics textbook, which is that if you tariff external goods, it will have just without any other factors included, on average, it will have a net negative effect on the economy, because you're just introducing a cost. But you will have isolated cases where, like, for example, if you work at a lumber company, the tariffs are good for you, because now Canadian lumber is so expensive that people want to buy your lumber, even though you are failing to provide lumber at a rate that the market finds acceptable. When we have free trade of lumber with Canada. So that might be good.
And a lot of that.
What I'm saying is no, let me finish my point, because this is a little longer than that.
Okay, but you lied.
Well, what I said is
you lied right there.
What was the lie?
The lie was that we don't produce enough. We can produce more than enough, but they've been shutting our mills down because of environmental issues.
Well, we should weigh environmental concerns on whether or not the mills are allowed to run. Right. So again, if we're going to consider the weight of protecting the environment, then we have to do it in a way. But the problem is that in order
there's a lot to that too.
The problem with what I just laid out is, like, the lumber manufacturer might benefit from these tariffs in an isolated sense, but the home builder doesn't. The home builder, regardless of who they're buying the lumber from, the price of the lumber went up, which is why the lumber company is doing well. So it's still a net loss to America, because it's a bigger deal to the American average Joe that home builders are having to pay more for lumber than it is that some lumber companies are doing better. That's a net loss.
I don't know if they'd pay more, because there's still competition within the United States.
Well, the price necessarily goes right, but if you tariff a good, the price will go up unless you subsidize production locally. There's no way around that.
Okay.
Yeah, because literally you're adding costs to the foreign goods, which will increase demand for local goods, and then because of the increased demand for local goods, those prices go up too. So again, basic economics says otherwise. And what I'm saying is that, while I appreciate that you would prefer an American buy their lumber locally than from Canada, that's just not the way that the global economy works. I agree. If we closed our borders completely and said we're only allowed to, this is a new one, monkey with symbols. Who sent that? Thank you, Gizzy. Did I say a bad word? Sorry, the gift distracted me. What I'm saying is that you could hypothetically North Korea us to accomplish this, and let's just close ourselves off from the global economy. And what you'd find is that, the lumber companies would be booming, but there's a bunch of stuff that we don't have here at all. We don't have lithium mines here. We wouldn't be able to make batteries for smartphones and electric cars if we shut ourselves off from the global economy, because quite controversially, a lot of those precious metals come from North Africa, where there's some civil rights abuses happening. We need to tread on that territory carefully for ethics reasons. But the broader point is that if we're trying to survive in some let's go back 10,000 years, and you and me are trying to survive on Earth, and I have my hut and you have your hut, and you're pretty good at growing trees that are good for building huts, and I'm pretty good at growing bushes that we can weave into cloth and stuff like that. It's better if you only focus on lumber and I only focus on weaving into cloth, and then we both have more of each, because we get to specialize. Again, this is a very basic economics principle. I'm just talking about doing it on a countrywide scale, where America is better if we team up with Canada on lumber production.
I'm not disagreeing with it. I'm just saying the talking points that he had that I agreed with. Okay. I mean, you're making very good points. What I'm saying is, so Trump does things like he'll visit a domestic manufacturer that is benefiting from the tariffs, because they were about to go out of business because everybody was buying from Canada or China or whatever, and then here are the tariffs, so now my business is booming and I'm rescued. What I'm saying is that it is so expensive for everybody else to rescue that local business that the net benefit, or the net cost or benefit to the American economy is still really bad, but it's easy for them to go on Fox News and fool you into thinking it was a good thing they did. Do you think that it's good, though, to save American businesses so Americans have jobs? Or because if none of us have jobs and all the businesses go under, then no one will have money to spend on anything anyway.
With no other cost, that's obviously a good thing, but I have to weigh the costs. So if we're saving jobs in the lumber industry,
have to.
Listen, if we save jobs in the lumber industry by, for example, if we're going to continue this Canada lumber example, we could save some jobs in the lumber industry. That's great. But we made homes more expensive. Because homes are more expensive, that's going to slow down the rate of development of new homes, and all the people who build those homes, they're losing jobs. So I'm saying that the net number of jobs created or lost by that sort of policy is still bad. And that's what I mean when I say that it's still bad for the economy. You can point, there's hundreds of millions of us. Any individual thing can happen, and you can point at it and say that's good because this person had a good outcome from it. We have to talk about averages. This is a huge macroeconomic problem.
Yeah, and if I was a framer, I'd be able to talk about it, and I'm not. And if I was a home buyer, then I would be able to talk about it, and I'm not right now. So I can't talk to their part, but I can talk to what my part is.
I can respect that you personally want the tariffs on Canada to be greater for lumber.
It's being selfish.
Right, and I'm just maybe this is a broader conversation we can move on to, because I personally think that it is part of your civic duty to make policy decisions, which you do in the voting booth, that aren't selfish.
Based for everyone.
Yeah,
well, I understand what you're saying.
Yeah,
but I think the older you get, the more you realize it's just you and that's it.
It shouldn't be. That's this individualistic thinking.
It shouldn't be, but that's the world.
Well,
I mean, it is.
But what we've been doing historically in America is moving away from thinking that way, because these social programs do benefit the economy. They do help people. So if we all just didn't think that way and voted for somebody who doesn't think that way, the world would be better on average for everybody. And that's we're trying to get to that better outcome.
And I think another reason why people voted for Trump, which I did, like I said, the first time I didn't even want him to be president, but out of the two choices, is I think people wanted a shock, because things are just everyone thought, okay, if we keep doing the normal thing and just keep people get into office, we never hear from the president, everything's going great, whatever, the economy, it is what it is kind of style. I think they wanted someone, okay, this guy said he's really going to fuck shit up, tear everything down and let's restart. For people like me, because I'm a millennial, I mean, obviously, I'm sick of seeing the same thing over and over. All it is prices get higher, wages stay the same. And I understand that you can't just get higher wages. People always want, well, I need to get paid more. Well, that's not possible.
Yeah,
you can't just
economically,
get more money.
Correct. You can't just order the wages higher. That's why there's big stagnation in things like minimum wage, because it is both politically and just economically hard to get companies to do that. But I want to interrupt and say that everything that you're saying suggests to me that you don't want Trump to be president, because everything you just complained about, he's making worse. And Kamala Harris wanted to make it better. She had a good plan to do that. It was the same plan that Joe Biden had. She kind of just inherited his policies because she took over his campaign. But that's what that's what we on the left are working on. Somebody just said it in the chat, and I'm going to repeat it to you. I'll paraphrase it. I lost the message, but they said, Ryan, you don't have to be alone. We don't want you to be alone. We don't want your liberties. We don't want you to suffer. We're not trying to win this. We're trying to make America great for everybody, and we want you to be a part of that. So maybe that means that you switch industries at some point in your life. Maybe that means that fewer people work in the lumber industry, because America's better if we share our lumber industry with Canada, which we would do by not tariffing lumber from Canada as highly as we currently are under Trump. So that might feel big and important to you, but when you think about the longitudinal course of your life, like what your life is going to be like in 10 years, 20 years. Hyperinflation on groceries is going to be a bigger problem than where in particular you work.
I agree. So and I'm worried about my kids' future and everything else.
They might not want to work in the lumber industry. Maybe they want to build homes. They probably want to live in homes, I would guess.
I don't. Hopefully they are smarter than that. But
that's an industry that's really hurting right now. Maybe in 5 or 10 years, getting into the housing industry would be really smart, because we're super fastidiously building homes because we have such a good relationship with Canada.
It literally seems year to year you don't know what's going to happen.
Right. I mean, lumber in particular is volatile. So I will just point out to everybody listening that yes, year over year, the lumber industry is pretty chaotic. It responded pretty crazy to COVID, for example. Lumber prices shot up because people were doing so much outdoor construction.
You pay attention to the markets.
I sure do. They're a huge component of how all this stuff works. And I would argue that if somebody's going to sit here and make the sort of arguments that I do, and they said that the markets aren't important and they don't pay attention to them, that person's not doing as good a job as I am. Because understanding all of this stuff economically is hugely important for me to be able to stand on business when it comes to these humanitarian ideals that I have, because I recognize recognize that pragmatically we can't tank the economy to feed hungry kids. What I've been arguing this entire life, I don't know if you caught the previous caller, is that feeding hungry kids is literally good for the economy. Like that's just how the math works out as a matter of fact. So again, you've been sitting here making a really good argument for why you shouldn't have voted for Trump, because you want all the things for America that Kamala Harris wanted.
Yeah, I think part of it too is that I like seeing. Well, I grew up. I mean, heavy testosterone industry, obviously, right? Logging. I mean, you can't be a coward, chewing Copenhagen, drinking beer every night type of guys. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I just like seeing Donald Trump when he says he's going to go do something. And the first day he gets into office, he's in the Oval Office all night signing bills and stuff. That kind of stuff just made me feel good. You know what I mean?
Well, and that's the performative element of it, because I will inform you that.
Yeah, and I'm not saying it's not performative.
Right. But I just want to fixate on something that you just said about how like he got in day one and he was doing all this, getting to work of like writing all these executive orders and stuff.
Yeah.
Every president does that. Every president signs a big stack of executive orders on day one. Of course they do.
Okay.
Like I don't
know. I guess I don't pay attention to politics enough.
So when you see like, oh, look at President Trump storming into the Oval Office, putting his big Sharpie signature, his big John Hancock all over everything, and like making it happen, you're kind of just falling for propaganda, because that's like really normal for American politics.
I guess what I would say,
and to correct the chat, he wasn't technically signing any bills because they take longer to push through than that. But
sorry, I
just a minor technicality because I run a live show, so I have to say those things. Or else I have to correct them later.
I'm just literally phone to the ear having a conversation with you. But I guess the way people like me see the world is we see Democrats as they want to, like, people that work outside. I mean, not city people. I live in a town of 500, so I don't see very many people. Mm-hmm. But so the way we think is Democrats are bad for business because all they want to do is put regulations on every single thing that's already regulated and regulate us out of work. There's always new fines we have to pay for, there's always like a new, it's like stipulations all the time. Like you got to have this license now and this zoning license or whatever. And we just want to make money, and it's already hard enough to make money is the way it is. You know what I mean? And then we see Republicans as, let's open up the national forest and log it all. And even though that's bad, we would rather have that, no rules versus too many rules.
I'm going to zoom in on something you said, because I can't respond to everything. We got to stay linear.
Yep.
But you said something about all these regulations and policies and things. And there's a particular tactic that the right is using right now to get people like yourself to be concerned about those sort of things. Which is that, sure, there are little individual regulations where like, the EPA says that you at your logging business can't do that anymore. And that's like, man, we got to figure out how to work around this. So like, I feel you on that. But what I want to really, really stress is that most of the sort of big government restrictions that the right is telling you are bad are not things that will affect people in your tax bracket. They're not things that will affect people heavily who work at businesses your size. When you said at the beginning of the call that you don't think people should be billionaires because that's just too much wealth for one person, you understand.
You can't even spend it all.
That's like a person having 50 hamburgers. Nobody can eat 50 hamburgers. Give some of those hamburgers away. Feed some hungry kids. Exactly. So what I'm saying
I'm going to use that.
Most of these policies that we're talking about that get vilified and shown like, we're taking away your American dream, we're making it so hard to do this. They're not things that prevent people from getting that nice house with the pool and the jet ski or the big F-150 parked in front of it or whatever you want. We're talking about stopping such people who already have all that type of wealth from going and becoming super duper wealthy. We're trying to prevent the billionaires from existing by saying along the way you did a bunch of things where you consolidated so much power and wealth, too much for one person to have, in a way that's unfair in the way we described earlier with the diminishing marginal utility of money. We're trying to prevent that from happening. And then the right comes and says they're coming for your job, they're coming for your American dream, they're coming for your company.
I'm not doubting that.
No, we're
happens.
not, dude. I think that you've been lied to about us.
I think CNN does the same thing to an extent, both sides. I'm not doubting that happens.
I'm saying that the problem is disproportional. The people on the right, the elected officials on the right, are largely lying through their teeth. And while you can find Democrats saying the odd wrong thing or lying or having a scandal, it's not as widespread a problem. And, people like Bernie Sanders want you to have a happy life. Trump doesn't give a shit about you, dude.
I don't think any of those guys do.
See, that's where I think it's important for you to recognize, no, dude, there are politicians who care about you. There are politicians that want you to be happy.
Well, I think Rand Paul would have.
Perhaps. And,
I really
and
liked
I'd love
him.
for us to go
I
back
really
to a normal
liked him
political
because-
climate. Joe Biden
Well,
did,
I
though,
liked
is
him
what I'm
because he
saying.
was
Kamala
whatever-
Harris wanted you to be happy. Trump doesn't care about you, and Kamala Harris does. She wants you
I
to pay
feel
less in
like
taxes.
I feel like Rand Paul was the kind of guy that was like, whatever this book says is exactly what we're going to do. And I was fine with that. You know what I mean?
Again, you're deflecting back to like a more normal Republican candidate, which I would love to see.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is you're ignoring my bigger point here, which is that there genuinely are people on the left where the actual goal of these policy positions is to make your life easier, is to make my life easier, is to make most people's lives easier. Whereas
I don't doubt that there is some.
What I'm saying is that it's uniformly not that on the right. It's all people who want to consolidate wealth for the powerful. That's why we saw the support for the big, beautiful bill, which did exactly that. It hurt the average American and made.
I do see the Republican Party as more for me, but that's also kind of how I feel. And Democrats always seem like it's more for everyone else, and it's like, well, you don't know how hard I've worked to get here. Which you've made great points. That's
why I'm struggling a little bit
really.
at this step in the conversation, because you keep saying that it's the Republicans who are are working for you, but all we've done in the how long you've been on here for a half hour, and every topic we've covered has just been further and further demonstration that the more you understand this, the more you see that the sorts of policies being pushed by people on the left are actually going to do that, and the policies of the people on the right are doing the opposite.
Maybe I need to look into it more.
You do. I mean, obviously, I think you do.
Yeah. Well, how about things like this? And this is just petty stuff that Republicans like. I live in Idaho, so we don't have to wear our seatbelts in our cars. You go to any other state, you have to wear your seatbelts in your cars. And the way we think, and I think each state should be allowed to do whatever they want, because each state is basically like its own country. If this was in Europe, each state would be a country. Completely different rules.
States' rights, yeah.
And I think, just on simple things like this, it's my pickup, it's my life, it's my seatbelt. If I want to wear it, I will. If not, it seems like they do minute things like that.
On the seatbelt thing, I think that you kind of should have the right to endanger yourself to a degree.
Yeah.
The reason I'm okay with seatbelt laws is because the people who respond to car accidents and have to scrape you off the pavement when you didn't wear a seatbelt really suffer for having to do that work. So I think it's fairly reasonable to say that if you're going to operate a vehicle, you need to be strapped in. I don't think that's a big violation of your rights. I don't think it's a big enough violation of your rights.
I do. I just think it's micromanaging. I know it sounds stupid. People are like, well, you should wear a seatbelt. Obviously, it's a smart thing to do, and I'm not disagreeing. But it's my choice is the problem. It seems like they start getting into micromanaging your life. It's like, well, everyone does this, so you should do this.
So you don't have to support the seatbelt laws, and it sounds like you live in a state that doesn't even have them, which is a demonstration of the fact that the state's rights system is at least working for you in that example that you brought up.
Yep.
But you said yourself at the beginning, you can disagree with the left about that. You can disagree with us about firearm ownership rights. You can disagree with us about abortion rights. You can disagree about all this stuff.
I don't have an opinion on abortion, really.
What I'm saying is that all of that stuff is kind of small crackers right now, because we have a federal government that is fastidiously working to keep America poor in order to keep a very small number of people wealthy and powerful. And that's really, really bad. And we in this call haven't even talked about the fact that Trump is doing that in a bunch of ways that are illegal and unconstitutional.
See, and I thought that he was attacking the banks and stuff. So from everything that I see, it seems like he's attacking the banks and he's trying to get us away from the Federal Reserve, and he wants to crash the Federal Reserve and start over basically with crypto.
The Federal Reserve
and offload our debt on crypto.
Yeah, but the Federal Reserve is there's this interesting thing that happens with money. You see this in betting markets and you see this in the stock market, which is that right or left, people make honest choices with their money if it's going to affect the outcome for them. So the job of the Federal Reserve to regulate things like the interest rates that are just, kind of the knob twiddling of fine tuning the economy as situations unfold to keep us going. The Federal Reserve has an incentive to do that in a way that's effective and good for America. And because they're so strongly incentivized, it's one of the only government organizations that so historically has operated apolitically, which is why you see somebody like Jerome Powell Powell, the chair of the Federal Reserve, who was literally appointed by Trump, by the way, during his first term. I know.
I don't agree with all that. Yeah.
Trump embarrassingly forgot that he did that and said, "Who appointed that guy?" when it was literally him.
What
I'm saying is that Trump is at odds with Powell and the Federal Reserve right now, because the Federal Reserve isn't going to lie to you the way that the legislative branch, the Republicans in Congress, are. They're not going to lie to you the way that Trump does. They can't. They have to do sensible things, or else the math doesn't work, and the economists call them out on it. And it has immediate, very bad outcomes for the economy if they get to fucking around. So of course Trump is mad at the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve has been doing good for the American people, and he doesn't want that. He doesn't, as I've been saying in the entire call. So yeah, he's going after them. It should concern you. It should concern you that the president is going after Powell. Powell's doing a decent job. The Federal Reserve in general, historically, has done a great job at filling its role. Remarkable story, the Federal Reserve, operating apolitically as long as it's happening.
So you agree,
less political than the Supreme Court.
having it?
Of course, yeah. Money is such a, like macroeconomic indicators, all these things.
It's the most important thing on earth. Money.
I won't say that, but I will say that money is what makes the world go round, and it requires real expertise to know how that happens. So in just the same way as you wouldn't elect the lead surgeon of a hospital democratically in a popularity contest, you would appoint a competent surgeon.
I agree.
That's what happens with the Federal Reserve. The idea is that you have a president who's going to appoint a competent person, which, as it happens, Trump did in his first term when he appointed Powell. But because Powell has remained competent while Trump has continued down this path of making America a worse place to live for the average American, Powell is aware of that and working against him. So he's made an enemy of him, because anybody who disagrees with him, anybody who does anything that's against what Trump wants, is an enemy. This is a person who literally punishes states because he doesn't like things that their governor said or did. That's bad. That's bad. This is really, really bad behavior from our leadership in a representative democracy. So
I understand what you're saying.
Right. So I asked
you're
again,
not. I mean, you're not a dumb. You're clearly not a dumb person. You're very smart, and you make good points. And you make good points for simple people to understand what you're saying. Which this is all great. I've never thought about it the way you've explained things. It's great.
No, you were really worried at the beginning of the call that I was going to jump down your throat.
Yeah, I did. I thought
I really just don't do that when I kind of hold you to the conversation. I kind of hold you to it when you say it was something that I think is wrong or immoral. But it does to my ear just sound like the more and more you understand how all this stuff works, which you can go research in your own time. The less and less, again, there's not a moment in this conversation where you have. Like, I'm going to give you the credit as a caller, because most of my callers aren't this nice to me either. You've conceded on most of the arguments that I've made to you. You
make good points.
Yeah, so I guess, I'm just going to keep revisiting it. Sounds to me, given everything that we've discussed, like for the things that you want for your life, even if you are going to operate totally selfishly, which I wouldn't actually say is like the ethical way to think about it. You should think about everybody. If you are just going to think about you, it sounds like Kamala Harris would have been a better president for you.
Maybe if I understood more, I guess. I think that I have some darker reasons why I voted for Trump, but I don't know if I want to ruin our phone call.
I don't know. Maybe it's good for the live if we completely ruin it. Because you did start by saying that you're I'm not misremembering, right? You did start this call by saying that you're an accelerationist and you essentially want to burn the economy down and start over. I'll tell you just really quick before we move on to whatever you're about to say. I will just say more broadly. The problem with like you could say that a house is so condemned that we need to like burn it down and build a new one, but there's this handy dandy thing that you're going to do before you burn that house down, which is that you evacuate the house. We don't burn it down with anybody in it, right? Unfortunately, we can't evacuate the economy, so we have to do the difficult work of tinkering with it. Because if we wanted to completely shut down the economy and not use it for a month while we built a new one, well, everybody would starve to death because you have to.
I understand. So, I've thought about that, how that could work.
Can't do that. So it doesn't. The analogy doesn't really work. But what are some of your other thoughts about all this?
I would say a lot of the stuff that made me worried because it seemed like this was accelerated was like, and I'm trying to say this the best way I can. I'm just pretty good at just saying what's on my mind. But I do not agree with the LGBT stuff. I cannot stand it. And I don't agree with people it seems like everyone's getting like un-Americanized, if that makes sense. Like unpatriotic. No one cares about the country. I mean, you go to a tire store, the guy don't know anything about tires. Everywhere you go, it seems like no one cares about their job, which I understand that could be they're not making enough money. But it seems like some of the agendas the left had.
We're moving on. I'm gonna answer very quickly that about people caring about their jobs. People used to care about their jobs because any basic job was enough money for you to buy a house and support a family. So yeah, no shit, we don't care about our
That's kind of how I felt about it.
Slave wage jobs that aren't gonna give us the life we want. So but I do. But yeah, we are gonna spend the last little bit of debate here. You're right. You have lost some of my favor. Because
there you go.
You don't.
I do.
So when you say all this LGBTQ stuff, let me just ask some basic questions because you've earned enough of my favor for me to be nicer to you about this conversation than I maybe would if somebody started with it. Which is first of all, do you recognize that people don't choose to be a member of that community?
Oh yeah, probably.
Yeah, like a person who's like really attracted to dudes and they're a dude.
I would not want to be. I mean, yeah, if you're a straight guy, you don't just go, I'm going to be gay and then have people make fun of you. I get that.
Okay, yeah. So you recognize that it is just, people are just who they are. People like who they are. I don't know how you feel about trans people. We've got a trans person in the chat who I might bring up to talk. Go ahead and join the request queue. I may or may not bring you up. We'll see. We'll see if if that feels productive. But so then I guess the question is, what's your problem with all of it then?
I don't like to see the drag queens go into schools and stuff. I don't like to see people pushing furries in school and having kids with litter boxes at school.
Okay. So wait. You're bringing up some misinformation because I will just point out that there is not a single documented case anywhere in America of a teacher putting a litter box in a classroom so that a child can use that because that's their choice as a member of the LGBTQ+ community.
I think there is a school within 50 miles from me that did that.
I assure you that is some bullshit rumor that you heard.
Okay.
Lawmakers when they were passing bills on this on the floor were asked to provide an example, and their response was that they're passing the laws against it so that they can prevent it from happening. They recognize that it's a rumor. It is just made up. And I guess when it comes to you not liking drag queens or flamboyantly gay people or whatever, what I'll point out to you is that because I asked the important question first, which is that you recognize that people don't choose to be gay. You recognize that none of the kids who are visited by a drag queen or a flamboyantly gay person or any other such character is any more or less likely to turn out gay, because that's just not how it works. You get that, right? Okay. So
I know boys.
So then I will actually say that I completely respect and value your right to not like that shit, but the American thing to do is allow it because of the First Amendment. The American thing
even in schools.
Yeah, dude. People. I mean, I really benefited from growing up in a progressive place where I had a lot of exposure to this sort of thing. I happened to go to an elementary school in New York that. This wasn't the case when I was a kid because I'm too young for this, but in decades prior, it was the safe haven school for gay educators who otherwise. This is back when people were worried about gay people being B3DOs, which they obviously aren't. So I just happened to grow up in a school where I was hyper exposed to that sort of thing, and all it did was make me really loving of everybody. So it made me really accepting of people of all different kinds. So I don't have what I might identify as a slightly hateful opinion about you not liking that stuff, but you're allowed to not like it. I'm allowed to like it, and more kids are less bothered by that stuff if they're exposed to it early. So what's the problem?
Kind of makes sense. I mean, that's not. I think it's just because I grew up in where I grew up. I think that's all it is. I think it's because of where I grew up.
And if you want kids not to be racist, having black kids in their school does it, or kids who look different than them. If you want kids not to be homophobic, having them exposed to homosexuality as a norm when they're young. I got to middle school and didn't know it was unusual. When people would call me gay in middle school, I'd be like, "What a strange thing to call me."
I've had some of my friends recently tell me they were gay.
Well, and I mean. And if you
that shit don't really bother me when you're older, but
so what I'm saying is that humans have this thing which is called by sociologists xenophobia, which is fear of people who are different than us. And if you grow up in a more progressive environment, you are less likely to have those feelings. And
I would understand that.
And if you're less likely to have those feelings, which you recognize are baseless and useless to society, then you're more likely to vote for progressive policies that are accepting of everybody. And what I'm saying is that that's a good thing. So I'm sorry to hear that you grew up in a closed-minded environment and that you've inherited some of the ick that you grew up with around that. But all I'm saying is that we on the left want people to be able to be themselves. And if
and that makes sense.
And so you're saying everything. I get it. Yeah, you're saying everything I say makes sense. So again, sounds like you wanted Kamala Harris to be president.
No. I mean, what you're saying. I mean, I'm just having a conversation with you. I'm not trying to go into too much details of because it's just not that serious.
Well, it is very, well, no, it is serious. And the reason that it's serious is because the number of people who are a member of the LGBTQ plus community is small relative to the rest of the population. But with what Trump is doing right now, those people, many of them are fearing for their lives because he is normalizing hatred against those people. I don't feel like it's that. I feel like it's more like for instance, if your kid's trans at school, they don't want the teachers telling the parents. That's bull. Well, I actually support that, and I think it's to protect children because a lot of kids' parents are caught up in this cycle of xenophobia that I discussed with you. Their parents were homophobic, they're homophobic towards their kid, their kid's gay, and they're looking for support. They should be able to have a conversation with a school counselor about that very difficult situation without getting ratted on. Above all else, I'm against uncloseting people who don't want to be uncloseted. Yeah, but if your teacher knows something that's so serious, the parents have to know. But what I'm saying is that it isn't serious. We shouldn't care what, if a kid has a crush on, like if I'm as a boy, I have a crush on a girl when I'm in elementary school, the parents don't tell on me and tell my parents, Billy has a crush on Susie. The teachers too do. Our teachers do around here. We live in a small community. What I'm saying is that it shouldn't make a difference if Billy has a crush on Susie or if Billy has a crush on Bobby. It just doesn't make, why is that something that the parents should be flagged about? I just think it's a good thing if the kids talking to the teachers about it. It's just like the teacher sending a report card home every week. Why is it their job to meddle in their relationship with their parents in that way? Because mind you, because you recognize that it's okay to be gay, because you recognize that it's a choice, a child who's afraid to tell that parent is somebody who's being a victim of their parents' homophobia. If a child was being physically abused by their parents and they went and told their school about it, told their guidance counselor about it, you wouldn't want the guidance counselor to then turn on them and say, "Oh, I'm going to go tell your parents that you brought this to me." I understand what you're saying. Right, it's the same thing with people. I understand what you're saying, but we're going to disagree on it. But you make a good point. Which part do you disagree with? I disagree that I think that parents should have the right to know every single thing about their kid, no matter what. I don't think that that's true. I think that we develop privacy, like we develop our full right to our privacy when we're 18, and I recognize that every parent has to make a decision about how involved in their kids' lives they're going to be. But what I'm saying is that allowing school employees, school faculty to be secretive about things that kids are concerned about with their parents, the opposite, and requiring transparency is really bad. And you breezed right past my counterexample, which is imagine the parents were violently attacking them. Yeah, you better call CPS then. Right, exactly. You don't tell on them to the parents. That's what you do. That's what you should do if it's that bad. But you're saying, the equivalent would be to tell the parents that the kids told on them, which is not what you should do at all. That puts the kid in more danger. And what I'm saying is that the policy that parents have to uncloset kids to their parents is a policy that will have a net negative effect on the safety of children. And I personally like voting for policies that have a net positive effect on the safety of children. Well, then there's really, really bad people in the world. Yeah, and teachers shouldn't have to tell those people that their kids are gay. I think the kids should be able to navigate that their own way. You're taking rights away from the child by giving it to the school. The child should be able to make their own decision about when they out themselves. Yeah, that makes sense. I guess if you don't like it, then don't send your kids to public school. I guess that's the answer to that. I would argue we should work on a society where people are just less homophobic and all of this shit would go away. Yeah. Well, I don't think it's homophobic maybe as much as parents want to understand what's going through their kids' minds. Well, do you think that here, for example, do you think that a parent should learn about it the first time that their child masturbates? Do you think that's an important milestone they should be aware of? I don't know. Yeah, I haven't got that far yet. I heard your little uncomfortable laugh because why would a parent meddle in such a thing, right? I don't know. Not only do you want them to meddle in such a thing, you want them to know what type of porn they were watching. That would kind of be what I would be concerned about. I'm saying if they're watching bestiality stuff. No, kids shouldn't watch that stuff. But you know what I mean. Like I'm saying that you know what I mean. You recognize. You should kind of know. No, I really don't understand your position. You're saying that you recognize it's none of a parent's business when a child starts masturbating, but you want to know what they're fantasizing about. I don't know if that is a parent. I'm not too sure. And I am a parent. I just haven't got there yet. I think when my son gets closer to that age, I'll understand more.
I don't know.
As a person, I don't have kids, but I've worked a lot with kids, and I think that I've got some real background in terms of how this gets handled in the education system, which I do in a professional sense. So if you have kids, what I will urge you, Ryan, if I get one W out of this call with you, because it has been an interesting call, I will say that you should foster a relationship with your children such that they are willing to tell you anything about themselves.
I think they already do.
Well, that's good.
They already do. They're tattletales.
Right. Well, I'm not saying that they should tattle on each other. I'm saying that if one of your kids
yeah.
How old are your children, Ryan?
9 and 5.
Okay, they're not old enough to know if they're gay yet. Probably some kids figure it out real early. But even if they think they're gay, it might change. These are kids who haven't gone through puberty yet. Probably.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is that you should just engage with your children in such a way that if one of them does turn out gay, you don't have to want the teacher to tell on them. You should raise a family where your children are comfortable telling you that sort of thing about themselves because you've recognized yourself. It's not your choice. Okay. So
I agree 100% with what you just said.
Then why are you saying that teachers should tell on children when that isn't maybe the family dynamic they have at home?
Because I think that kids' brains are not developed enough to understand that to actually go talk to their parents about things.
Well, yeah.
Because if their friends keep it a secret and it's cute, hang on. If their friends think it's cute to be secretive about it, then they're just going to see that and be like, oh, it's cute to be secretive about it. It's kind of like, I don't know how old you are, but we had an emo phase when I was growing up.
We're about the same age. I remember the emo phase.
Yeah, and I kind of partaked in that too. I mean, I wore the Slipknot t-shirts and stuff like that too. Yeah, I dyed my hair black
when I was like 12.
Yeah, me too. And I was being rebellious, and it was secretive. And the only reason I did it is because my friends did it.
Yeah, so kids follow trends. What I'm saying is that because even if a kid really associates with the gay group at school, which there's usually something of a gay clique at a school, it's just not gonna make them gay. I'm not here I'm not an emo kid anymore. I don't have black hair anymore. I don't wear all black anymore. It was like a summer when I was into a girl who did that when I was 12. Doesn't matter, So what if your kid has a phase where instead of black hair and Slipknot isn't emo, but you get band shirts or whatever.
Yeah, I know what you meant. Yeah.
Yeah, again, so what if it's rainbows and blue hair? What difference does it make? It's still the blunder years for them. They're still gonna laugh at those pictures when they're older, but it just isn't. I
agree.
It just isn't gonna affect their sexual orientation as an outcome. So why does it matter? Why do you care about it? So much?
No, I agree with that. I'm just saying, if it's cool to do something, they'll do it.
Yeah, but they're not gonna end up gay because of that.
Not that.
Even if they were, it wouldn't matter.
Even if being secretive, I mean, if it's cool to be dark. I mean, remember when kids used to cut themselves all the time? They weren't even depressed. They were just doing it because that's what was cool.
I will urge you to not talk about self-harm when you don't. You've already clarified that you don't understand how serious a problem for a lot of people that is, because it's bad when people do that to themselves.
I know some people went through it. I understand that.
Yeah, but I'm saying that it's just doing it for attention is rare. Most people who self-harm do it privately and are feel a lot of shame about it. So don't generalize like that. I don't think that you. I mean, I've
seen it with my own eyes.
You can see an example of something with your own eyes. It doesn't make you an expert on it. And
I agree.
I think that you disparage a lot of people. You there's an erasure happening here where a lot of people face a thing that's very difficult in your life, and you're saying that that's not the experience based on what you've seen, and I'm saying that is the experience based on the data that I've seen.
And I agree that it's both sides.
You're an interesting case, Ryan. I want you to keep calling in because I'm wrapping up the call section for today. I mean it. You're in good faith.
Well, all I am. All I am is I understand everybody has a point of view, and there's more than one way to do things. It's pretty obvious.
You just seem kind of open-minded. I'll ask you this question before we move on. I have Ezra in the request box who said they're a trans person. They had some words for you. I can't vouch for them. I don't know how this person is on the mic.
It's fine.
All right, I'm gonna bring them up, and I'm also gonna bring Diava up because we're entering the Just Us Girls hour, which might not be an hour.
Okay.
I've got so much video editing to do. My goodness, but I am gonna bring Ezra, who wanted to talk to you, and Diava up, and you can hang out as long as you want, Ryan.
Okay. All right. My phone's gonna die soon.
No worries. Ezra, do you want to...
Is my audio okay?
You sound great.
Yep.
All right, perfect. I just wanted to say that I live in Missouri, so again, a very, very conservative place, and I'm a trans guy, and I was born to a very conservative family, and I I really love your perspective on things. And I think that I could definitely talk to you and not necessarily change your mind. That's never going to be my goal.
Yeah,
I think
it's hard to do.
Yeah, right. Very hard-headed. But I had a very conservative upbringing, and I'm very open-minded, and I like talking to people and making sure that if there's anything that they have hesitations about when it comes to trans people, I would love to communicate that with you. So
yeah, I understand.
Yeah. Is there anything that like grosses you out about trans people or anything like that I can maybe help with your mind a little bit?
Other than just the way that I grew up, I guess I wouldn't. I don't really know. I never really hang out with any, so I don't really know. I've never spent time. Like I said, I live in a small town. I ride my Harley on the weekends, and then I'm in the woods all week. I don't even talk to people. Yeah. This is the most I've talked to anybody in forever.
No, that's so fair. That's so fair and so valid. No, I completely get it. Like, honestly, until I learned about trans people when I was probably in high school, I was pretty grossed out by it too. It's one of those things of just like, it's that xenophobia that we were kind of talking about. It's that idea of like things that we don't know is often very scary. Yeah. And like, since you don't know anyone, that's completely fair that it's just like, I don't know how I feel about all that. Exactly. But yeah. I think that
I'm all the way to the point where I don't like girls getting lip injections. I don't like the fake, I don't think you should have to change. I guess the way I think doesn't matter what I think. I have no influence on this earth. But the way I think is you shouldn't have to be able to change your body, because I knew tomboys, growing up, the chicks that rode dirt bikes, and they grew up and they're beautiful women that have beautiful families. They just like dirt bikes.
Oh, yeah.
And it seemed like that kind of went away.
Right. And I think that gender is a bigger conversation than that, right? It's just like they feel comfortable being a woman and being a non-feminine woman.
Guys in the face.
Ezra, if you'll let me get my own thoughts on that as just an ally. The problem I have with, like, I kind of agree. Like, it makes me a little sad that, like, Miley Cyrus is fucking her face up with plastic surgery. Like, I wish that she wouldn't. That's my opinion about what she should do with her body, but obviously she can.
It's just an opinion,
right? So, but I think that what's different about something like lip injections or a tummy tuck or something like that versus gender affirming care is that we do have medical interventions for when your body is doing a thing that makes you really unhappy. Maybe you have a little birth defect, and like I don't know. I had a birth defect where that thing underneath my tongue that connects my tongue from to the bottom of my mouth, it was too long. It went all the way out to the tip of my tongue. So a doctor went in there and lanced it out so that I could speak properly, and I wouldn't be able to speak so quickly and articulately if they hadn't fixed that when I was a kid. So they found a problem that was causing me discomfort, going to make my life not optimal, and there was an intervention that they found is a good one for it. So what's going on with trans people is they're saying that like their mind and body, in whatever way we want, we can get philosophical about talking about what it means to be trans or try to go by the literature in the DSM or whatever, but the point is, like, the lived experience of trans people, and I shouldn't speak for them because we have one on the call, is best I can tell sometimes uncomfortable, pretty bad. Even with nobody's mean to you, it's pretty uncomfortable to not be in a body that you're happy with. So instead of thinking about it like a tummy tuck or like a lip surgery or something like that, it's that there's this issue that's causing a great amount of discomfort, and that there are medical interventions that alleviate that discomfort, and that's what's important. Ezra, do you think, am I doing a good job?
I think that you're doing a very good job. Yeah, I think that the high discomfort of things, like I have had one surgery for being trans specifically. I have had a complete and double mastectomy. So that's just removing both of my full breasts. And they were already big to begin with, caused a lot of back problems. I probably would have gotten a reduction if I wasn't trans. But it was such a big discomfort for me. And I live so much healthier of a lifestyle that I can actually go out and feel comfortable in my body and stuff. I like running now. That's new.
But that's good for you.
Yeah. Oh yeah. But
Everybody
I
go for
think
a run. We're made for it. It's like the best exercise. Sorry.
Yeah,
Always got to shout out running.
I'm just kissing up to Oscar now. But yeah, I think
May I
that,
interject?
go for it.
I just wanted to say, Ryan, I do appreciate you having an open mind, and that you're at least willing to discuss, because I think that I'm discovering lately that we're not as far apart as we think we are from
Exactly. I've always
our
thought that.
fellow man. I think that we just aren't having the conversations. Everything's so polarized. Everyone's so angry, rightfully so.
Yeah, everyone wants to fight.
Including myself.
Yeah, me too. I get that way sometimes.
Yeah, and I can be pretty aggressive, but I'm not going to be that way with you at this point, because I think that you've been, calm and having a decent conversation and being honest, which I appreciate.
Problem.
My parents are MAGA. My whole family is MAGA. I'm the only one who is not. I had a breast reduction when I was 16 years old. My parents signed for me to get gender affirming care because my breasts were so large that they were like size G. They were like out of couldn't even buy a bra in a store. Let's put it that way.
Yeah,
I was right there with you.
and I was 16 years old. And so my parents signed for me to get a breast reduction at 16 because I had discs in my back that were deteriorating from the weight, and I couldn't participate in recess, PE. I couldn't do anything. Like, it was prohibitive to, even just be normal. So I had a breast reduction when I was 16. I don't think that what my parents did was wrong. Do you?
Yeah. No, I don't. That's your parents' decision, I suppose.
Well, and that's
kind of what I'm all about.
Yeah, and that's how I feel about transgender people in general. I think it's nobody's business. I think we should leave it to the doctors, leave it to the parents, leave it to the children. And just so you know,
I would agree.
It is extremely rare.
As long as parents are involved.
Yeah, absolutely. But it is extremely rare, and I doubt you'll find any doctor in this entire country that would do surgery on a child without parental permission.
Yeah.
And just so you know that Ezra, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but from my understanding is there's very, very, very few and rare circumstances that anyone under the age of 18 has surgical intervention.
Oh, it's very, very rare.
It's mostly
it's not completely
social.
Insane.
Well,
correct.
It's mostly the minor, like, couple of handful of exceptions you can find are cases where, like I was describing in my example, is like medically necessary
self-harm
for some reason. Yeah. But yeah, most of the gender affirming care that happens to people who are under the age of 18 is like hormone blocking and stuff like that.
Right. Which they wanted to do.
Less damaging to the body if you want to reverse it later.
Correct, but which is what they wanted to do to my daughter because she started developing pubic hair at 6 years old. That's called precocious puberty. So they give them puberty blockers so they don't go into puberty so early.
Yeah.
She's not transgender. She just, her body went through puberty, was starting to go through puberty too early. So they put a puberty blocker till they reach the age where you would normally go through puberty. Then they take you off of that, and then you have a natural cycle, and then it happens. So parents that choose to do that for their own child, for whatever reason it is what we're talking about. Just leave it to the doctors, leave it to the parents, leave it to the children to be who they are. And I did want to just make one other statement since he's given me the floor for just a moment. I do have a gay child, and she told me when she was 8. She never had to come out to me because I've always been an accepting, open parent, and I let them talk to me about everything, no matter what it is. She never felt the need to have to come out to me. We just happened to be watching a show, and I kept pointing out all the little boys that were in the show. I'm like, oh my God, he's so cute. And she's like, no. And I'm like, okay, didn't think much of it. And then a little later on, she's like, I don't know what it is, but I don't look at boys that way. She goes, but I would love to have a girlfriend.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, so you like girls? And she's like, yeah. I'm like, okay, cool. Because attraction can't be learned. Attraction can't be taught to somebody. How you feel your attraction toward another person is inherent. There's nothing we can do about that.
And I don't talk about things I don't understand because I don't, you know what I mean? But
I was just explaining it to you because I know you really are hung up on kids being around, about the exposure to gay people, drag queens and all like that.
Drag queens is like a big one for me. I just think that's so weird, but that's just me.
But see, drag queens, But just so you know, any child that attends a drag story time, a drag breakfast or brunch or anything like that, parents voluntarily take those kids to things. They actually don't have drag shows in schools. That doesn't happen.
Well, and to add on to that, and kind of what I was talking about earlier, is like when you know drag queens aren't necessarily gay. They're not necessarily trans.
They're not even transgender either.
Yeah, I mean, like I could dress up in drag, and that would make me. You can call it weird.
It's entertainment.
But you can go to a street festival.
I mean, entertainment, I can understand.
You can go to a street festival and see some people dressed as a dragon dancing down the street. It's costume and festiveness. What drag queens are celebrating, and the reason I was saying earlier in the call that that sort of exposure is actually really good for children is because it shows children that no matter how you dress and whatever you do, as long as you're not hurting anybody, that's okay. And maybe some of them, will it incline the children to also do drag? Obviously, more children grow up and do drag if they're exposed to it when they're young, but that's not because we're indoctrinating them into being drag queens. We're telling them they can go be themselves, so they go and be themselves. And some of them end up drag queens, but some of them go and do other things. Some of them go join the Blue Man Group, paint themselves blue and hit drums. That's very weird to do.
It is weird.
Performers will perform. I'm a performer. That's something that I've had a reckoning with as an adult, which is that I realized I should never have suppressed about myself the fact that I'm a performer and that I want to be in front of other people, entertaining people in some way. I'm a musician in my private life, and I get to do that, and I get to come on here and put on an entertaining podcast that people like listening to, and I love that. It really, really fills the bar for me. It really charges me up that I get to spend my time performing. And your discomfort with drag queens is something that we talked about is kind of planted in you by some like youthful xenophobia from growing up in a closed-minded space. So it's going to be a little uncomfortable as the world moves on, but the world's going to move on without you unless you get comfortable.
I agree. I agree with that. It will always move on whether you like it or not.
Yeah. So the dress, I think the closing note, because I do want to wrap up the live soon, is really just going to be that the dresses aren't important. Our civil rights are important, and our civil rights say that we can wear the dresses. Go ahead.
May I make one other statement?
Please.
I know you said this was the one reason why you didn't vote for Kamala Harris, and I just want to let you know that Kamala Harris, much to the chagrin of the transgender community, didn't really talk or mention transgender people very often. But the GOP did spend over $200 million on ads of anti-transgender ads to make people like you feel the way you do. And that it's a really big problem, and it just isn't. What we do in the Democrat Party is just let people be who they are as long as they're not harming anybody. And I used to think that's what Republicans believed in, was smaller government. You don't want everyone in your business or in your bedroom.
But this is also what it feels like too, just looking like me. If I wear cowboy boots, a hat, a flannel, I go into a liberal city, I get the looks like you wouldn't believe. And it's like, dude, you don't even know me. All I like to do is make money, and I want to buy some stuff. That's it. Go have beers after this. But it just seems like it's like Democrats look down on you, and they're like, you're this way. And it's
that's what you do. But that's what you do to transgender people and gay people. You look down at them at the same way.
I'm not going to disagree with that.
And I can also just say that I think you know from being on this call with me for an hour that obviously that's not the sort of behavior that somebody like me would support.
No, you're very good. You're very knowledgeable. I'm going to start looking at the news like how you explained it, and to see if that's the way that they're explaining it.
Yeah, just take it. Like I try not to point people in particular directions because it'll show my bias. But I always just say watch more news. If you're watching 2 news networks, watch 5 news networks. If you're hearing them talk about what the president said, go watch what the president said. Find the one that's actually showing
I think that's important.
Ground News is getting shouted out in the chat, which is a great resource that takes a bunch of news.
Reuters,
together.
AP News.
Yeah, there are specific examples, but in general, just take more stuff in. That's that.
Oscar, I have to go. My phone's gonna die. I would love to see you debate like a super hardcore Republican on TikTok one day. I'd actually listen to the whole thing. Hopefully without fights, without people getting angry.
Tell them to come for me. I'm live 10 to 12 every day in Central Standard Time.
I don't really follow anyone. I literally was just scrolling and seeing you on here.
No worries, dude. I appreciate your time very much, and I hope to hear from you again.
Yeah, later.
What a delightful call that turned out to be. It had some hairy moments, but But
I think we gave him enough food for thought, though, because
I didn't want to overwhelm him. It's like I think he was listening, and I could just pile on for hours about things he should, fix about the way he thinks about this stuff. But like, no, I think that
takes time.
It takes time, and that guy seemed. See that's like the definition of good faith, where instead of jumping down my throat every time, he got lost in the sauce a little bit here and there, like with pivoting, but like for the most part, when I explained to him how I thought about something, his answer was the words, "Well, that makes sense." It's like, yeah, it does.
Well, if you never talk to anybody with a differing view, you can never see the other side or the other perspective, and usually it just ends up in devolving like mine do. They come up and they
Yeah.
Hey, old grandma. And they come up insulting you, and they don't really want to have a conversation. They just want to dog on you.
Well, I think the thing that was most surprising about what he was open to is that I pointed out that he grew up in a situation that made him quite xenophobic, and that's going to manifest as homophobia and transphobia or whatever. And I basically said that, like, you recognize there's nothing inherently wrong with these things. So how about we just make people less xenophobic by exposing them to it more so that they're not like you? And he was kind of about that. And I'm like, oh, okay. So like you actually recognize that we should be socially progressive, that we should normalize these weird things. Because it's just not important to, a guy wearing a dress is not, if a guy wearing a dress is important, there's some photos of the vice president wearing one. So get concerned about that.
And Rudy Giuliani with Trump when he was motorboating him.
Yeah, it's silliness, right? Like if you really think that drag, story hour or whatever is like such a big problem, you just to be clear, you also want to cancel Halloween, right?
Right.
It's ridiculous. Ezra, very nice to meet you.
Thank you so much for having me up. I really appreciate talking to people like that.
Instant follow from me.
Yeah, you got my follow. Well, trusted party from the Oskar Quentin show, absolutely. Yeah, I appreciate your perspective, and you did a good job on the mic.
Yeah, I talk to clients all day long. I work in fashion, so talking to people about gender and how it's not as binary as we think it is very normal for me. And I love talking to people in my itty-bitty hometown and suburb, Kansas City. It's really nice to be able to communicate that I'm one of you. I know that it's scary to look at trans people that live in big cities and think of blue-haired liberals, but we're just like you.
Yeah, and I mean, that's the beauty of this technology is that a guy like that who did grow up in a small town, works in a small town, lives in a small town, is just trying to live his life, would never sit down at the table with the three of us and like talk about this sort of stuff. But he did because of TikTok Live. So as much as I kind of have a disdain for TikTok, TikTok for letting that guy see the world in a more broad scope than he otherwise would. It's what we're doing here after all, right? By doing all these talk shows on here.
It says a lot about him just having an open mind and willing to listen. I think that that's very admirable.
Yeah, absolutely. I am going to let both of you go so I can do my post roll and get off of here because I got stuff to do. But thanks very much for your time.
See you later.
I will see you later, both of you, for sure. And Diava's a regular co-host on here. She's on here all the time. Thanks, everybody, for hanging out. There's still about 100 people in here, which is really, really wonderful. Machete says, I never see Dean turn someone like that, Oscar. I don't know. I feel like I'm less of a same 12 arguments over and over type of guy. I really try to zoom in on who I'm talking to. So I appreciate that people found that conversation as enlightening as I did. Because, those are the heartwarming conversations. Those are the ones I'm really excited to see the YouTube comment section when this gets posted after the fact. If you're watching on YouTube after the fact and you made it all the way to the end, or you're still here on TikTok, you can do me a favor and go to the link tree in my bio and follow me on the other platforms. Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube are really where I'm going. And I'm so excited. I'm almost at 10,000 on Instagram, which unlocks a bunch of features and monetization and stuff for me. I am at 9,867. So I should have 10,000 followers by the end of the day if I'm lucky. And if I'm unlucky, it'll be tomorrow. So maybe you can make that happen sooner. Very, very exciting that this is going as well for me as it is. Very, very exciting that there's so many people come and support. I have to thank people like, Diava and now Ezra who can come up and help host the live with me. And then people like Mama Avery and Midwest Progressive who are in the chat moderating things so I can focus on the conversation. The fact that there's like a team of people working behind making the Oskar Quentin show function is a huge, huge, huge deal to me. And you should go follow those people. You should go follow Diava Talks and Ezra because they're obviously good voices in these things. And I believe they're still showing up in the chat. Anyway, I just got to say thanks for all of that stuff because it's incredible that I get to do this to the degree that I do. And I can always say that if you want to materially support me and really make sure that I get to spend more time doing this, there are some ways to send me money in the link tree in the bio. That's a thing you can do if you feel like doing that. Anyway, I'm going to wrap the stream for the day. These VODs are slowly but surely getting posted up. I'm about a week behind on posting them on YouTube, but there's like 2 to 3 of them coming out on there every day until I catch up, and then these will just get posted every single day on YouTube. So if you want to listen to me when I'm not live, that is the way to do it. Thanks everybody for hanging out, and have a lovely day.